Alrighty. Hello, people. We're back again to talk about the Wheel of Tide, Winter's Heart. We're finally wrapping up this book. This happens to be one of Tristram's favorite, at least the ending of this book, and that's what we're going to be covering today. And yeah, it's going to be me and Tristram here, of course. Hopefully, Andrew will show up during the stream, hopefully, before we talk about the last chapter, which is probably my favorite of this book. But yeah, we can go ahead and jump right into it. So, we're going to cover chapters 23 to 35. And a lot of interesting stuff happens. I know in this first chapter that we're going to talk about, To Lose the Sun, it's basically, I would consider it a pretty good opening third act chapter. So in this chapter, we got a point of view from Shalon, who is
the Windfinder.
Yeah, Windfinder. So we're talking about someone who is associated with the
Athenmere.
Athenmere.
Yeah.
And so what's basically going on here in this chapter is they're making their way towards formatting. The reason they're going to formatting is because Alana knows where basically Rand is.
Yeah, but they haven't shared that with the like only some people in the party actually know how they're tracking Rand.
Like, right, so they're keeping it tight lipped.
But they're disguising the fact from the Athenmere.
The Athenmere, yeah, because the Athenmere, they have a certain contract where they're supposed to have some type of detachment that basically follows Rand. Rand wants no part of that. I think, and interestingly enough, Cadsuane is actually trying to keep Rand's wishes because she knows how problematic these Athenmere are. They're pretty demanding of Rand's time, and Rand has some important stuff that he needs to take care of. And also, at this point in time, I believe Cadsuane is aware of Min's prophecy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so she knows it's important that she becomes at least an advisor to Rand so that the prophecy that Min has shared with them goes smoothly. And it's kind of similar in scope to the prophecy that Min shared with Swan, right? That Swan has to stay near Gareth Bryn, like their fates are intertwined, else they can die. So we have Cadsuane on her quest to find formatting. The other thing in this chapter, as well as we find out that some of the Ashaman are traveling with them instead of Rand.
Ebon Hopwell, Jaha Narishma.
Yeah, so what we do find out is that Ebon and Narishma are now warders for a couple of these Aes Sedai. Ebon is the young one. He's like a teenager. And it gets kind of strange later on. I'm like the relationship that Ebon has with his Aes Sedai. I can't quite describe it. It doesn't seem sexual in nature, but it does seem kind of weird.
Yeah.
So yeah, they have this contingent traveling to Formatting. One thing that they find interesting in their trek is as they get closer, they notice that they can't see this one source, or they can't touch it.
Yeah.
And this is, go ahead.
And just that's the reason for the name of the chapter.
Right. So why is this important? Formatting actually has a Tiangriel that blocks the source from being used, at least being touched by a channeler. It's very similar to like a steading type effect, and I think they try to explain it that way at least to the people that don't know or have never been in the setting. And it's funny because some of the Windfinders still don't believe in Ogier and stuff like that, so they think like that the other Aes Sedai are just BSing them about settings and Ogier. And then once Shallan gets in the vicinity of this Terangrial, she is like completely shocked.
Oh yeah, and this again is one of the cool things about the Wheel of Time, and especially about the way Jordan wrote it, is he really, because he was doing such a long series, he's able to build things up books and get you to really buy into something. And one of the things he gets you to buy into is that touching the source is like breathing to people. So good. It's not just like sex or like some other kind of buzz. It's addictive. It's like life itself. And like that's why being cut off from it, people just like waste away and die, because it's just like, what's the point of life now that I can't have that? It's like being struck blind and having your legs broken all at the same time. And the thing is that Shallan's never had this. So suddenly being cut off from the source and not knowing when she might touch it again, like when am I going to be able to leave this place? It traumatizes her. And it's another example of showing that her sister just is a bit of a jerk. And also her sister doesn't really get her, in showing that like she's just not sympathetic or even understanding. But it's like it's also quite unifying because we see that the men and the women are both shaken. Whereas you would think being free from saidin would actually be a relief because of its taint. You'd think that the men would kind of seek out a place like this, but actually, even though saidin is like so, it just shows that they're like, now I've tasted it, I just can't do without it. And the great thing for the reader is like, why has Rand come here? Like, why come to the place where he's like everybody else when he is like the most powerful person? Why would he come to a place where everyone's on a level footing? And that obviously opens up the idea of he obviously hasn't done this by accident. Yeah, really, I'm really surprised that formatting is basically only used in this book because it's such a fantastic, cool idea, right?
Right. Right. So this, yeah, Rand does have his own motives for using formatting as his
Yeah.
place to spring his trap.
Yeah. But we don't know that until this happens.
At this point, no, we don't know yet what's going on. He's already had one encounter so far that we've talked about in our past discussion. That single encounter, he was able to kill one, but two of them were able to escape. And then we did see one die in a way that would suggest that um, what's his name? Long nose man. Well, I was forgetting his name. Pot on Fane had struck a blow on him.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're entering the city. We do find out how lawful the city is. So all swords either are confiscated or peace bonded. And peace bonded means that they basically wire up your sword in its scabbard so that it cannot be opened. And if you have an opened blade that has been peace bonded, when they lock an area down and they start inspecting people, that's when they'll find out, who may have been the person who perpetrated a crime that was found in the area. So they also, that's what we learn about here. Our next chapter, which is Among the Councils, also from the point of view of Shallan, they have now entered the city, and Cad Swain, I didn't mention, is actually from Formatting, so she has a lot of knowledge about the city, its hierarchy, its leaders, and how everything works. We do see her throughout this, at least Formatting arc, like talk down to a lot of the people, like, what the hell are you doing? Like, there's a big mistake that Nynaeve makes that could have been avoided had she known about what the Tirangrial was capable of.
Yeah.
But so they're informed. Go ahead.
Cadsuane's secrecy is her greatest weapon, but it also like is a weakness, right? Like
Yeah.
if she would just share all her knowledge freely with everyone, like Nynaeve, like Rand, things would go a lot better. But the problem is that it's also one of her strengths. One of the reasons that Cadsuane's lived this long and got this far is that she hasn't shared what all her ter'angreal and can do, and she hasn't opened up. So this scene, these chapters in Farmedding show us the only insight we really get into her backstory, because she's quite
Hmm.
tight-lipped about it. And like I think maybe Jordan had lived to finish the series. I think a new spring for Cadsuane is something that we would have seen, like when she met the old witch who was the or Varen, and some of
Hmm.
they both talk sometimes about things that happen in their far past that we get only minor glimpses into. But these chapters, one of the reasons I find them really interesting is when she talks to the leader woman, Alice or something like that. It's an A.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Alace or something like that. Yeah.
yeah, it is. But she's like an old woman, and she obviously remembers Cadsuane and knows that she's from here, and like there's she doesn't like her basically. But I think that it was a really cool insight into Cadsuane, who we only ever really see as the Gandalf-like character, who basically makes almost no
Mm.
mistakes, and everyone should just listen to her. So I think there's interesting, and we see Cadsuane, as you say, speak down to everyone, manipulate people, force things in Cadsuane typical ways. But it's interesting that, like, if she had just opened up and told them everything about Farmadding and all her involvement in it and everything she knew, some of these mistakes could have been avoided.
Yeah, there's probably some interesting backstory between
Mm,
Cadswain and Alace that's just kind of hinted at, but never
correct.
really gone into. And it's interesting because there's something that Cadswain does that she does have a pang of regret for doing because she feels that Alace is genuinely a good person for formatting.
Yep.
But so what happens here is basically Cad Swain and her entourage meet up with Alace. This city is ruled by a council.
Mhm.
Alace is her title is first among equals, which is
Mhm.
kind of a weird oxymoron.
Don't
But
you think
base
it's a deliberate nod to communism?
is that what it is?
I
I
think
don't
so
know.
because like if you think about things like an Animal Farm, you know, all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others, and uh,
Okay.
and that kind of idea. Because one of the things about farm adding is it's one of the only places I can think of that isn't in any of the nations. Like it
Okay.
isn't in Tyr, it isn't in Karhain, it isn't in Andor, because like the Two Rivers is technically in Andor, even though they don't
Hmm.
really pay any attention to it. They are in a country. Farmadding is a specific exception, and it's partially because of their ter'angreal. They're like this meeting at the crossroads, as it were, and they're a unique sort of place. And you can see some of the implications here from the medieval time in Britain when people
Hmm.
started to found these trading cities that became independent of kings. And so formatting implies a lot of those things. And like it's as if this is Robert Jordan suggesting that this is a place that is testing out the idea of everyone can be anything. Nobility is not really working here in formatting. It's moved
Hmm.
beyond that. It's trying a different political view, and it's like a hint of what is to come. And what's made it possible is the Angreal. But one thing that's interesting is they say to him like, "You think that like the Dragon Reborn, it won't be your problem because of these Angreal. That's why you think you don't need to pay attention to the White Tower. That's why you don't think you have to pay attention to anyone." It's like, but remember, they don't do anything against massive armies. So like, don't mess with us. And it's brinksmanship, it's politics, but it's really interesting. I wish we had more formatting because I think it's a really interesting uh, oddity that is unique in Rangland.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So also, yeah, they meet. We get to see that Elise is not friendly with kids, Wayne.
No,
She doesn't even acknowledge her existence. Like
she tries
she
not to.
first, yeah, she addresses her entourage, but not her. Um, so basically, they can't tell um, why they're there, and then we find they get into a bit more detail about the ter'angreal that's
Mm,
protecting the city,
mm.
and apparently, this ter'angreal uses a triangulation method
Yes.
to locate Chandler. So I'm trying to think, like, so this ter'angreal suppresses channeling, but can still locate Chandler. So how does this work?
And
If it's
they
both
never
suppresses them
they
and
never
can
fully explain
triangulate.
it. They never fully
Yeah.
explain. But what they do say is that there's like a map of the city there. And so what happens is that there's three of them, there's three statues in this ter'angreal. And we presume that, well, these are theorists, okay? So this isn't actually stated in the text. But a lot of theorists have stated that they think it makes sense that one of them blocks the male half of the weave, one of them blocks the female half of the weave, and one of them does the pointiness thing, like manages
Okay.
the kind of, that isn't proven. That's just what people have said. Oh, there's three. Maybe they do three different things, which is what it looks like they do. And so, and then the three of them all gravitate and actually move on a pivot. And
Hmm.
so they all point, and where they intersect is the location of the channeling.
Hmm.
So that's the concept. But obviously, no one has channeled in Farmadding like in years. So
Well, it
when it
must
actually
not
happens,
be.
it freaks them out. Like they're like, this is our big shield, and like someone just breached it, and they lose their plot. They're like, oh crumbs when it happens.
All right. So yeah, it happens, and they're looking at this ter'angreal, and Varen, I think, plants the seed that the channeling is coming from the Dragon Reborn. Does that sound right?
Yeah, but she says it's a man, and they're like, "I'm guessing we're here looking for."
Yeah.
And so it's definitely like the idea of like, and Varen like almost acts. Varen's always got a double game going, but
Oh
in
yeah.
this,
There's something she does in this last part of the book that's pretty shady. I was like, oh wow. This
yeah,
is probably where people are thinking, man, like their Varen is super shady.
is she evil kind of thing? Because I remember
Yeah.
we know about Varen a few things already. Like we know that she's been really good for the good guys team, but we also know things like she used a kind of compulsion, right?
Right.
And we know that's bad. That's like Leandrin and the Forsaken stuff. So
Yeah.
Varen is definitely not whiter than white. And so when
Hmm.
she does these dodgy things, you'd be thinking, I know she's brown, but could she be like a mastermind evil girl? And there is some theories, or there was before obviously we find everything out in future books, that Varen
Hmm.
might be dangerous or on the other side. But anyway, but she is super shady here. And I think one of the things that Varen's doing is like she's planting that seed. Don't mess with the Dragon Reborn. You need to like don't think that you can be Switzerland, right? And be
Right.
neutral. Yeah. You have to like pick a side. Otherwise, one day the Dragon Reborn might come for you.
Right. And they're also trying to show, hey, look at this. There's channeling happening here.
Yeah,
So,
like
they're freaking out. Now, for that part, um, was that orchestrated? Like this demonstration? Is
no,
that
I
why?
don't think
I think it is because during all of this, they were looking for Jahar and
he's
nobody knew
missing.
where he was.
And so, but do you think I mean, it's too long since I read it. Clearly, that sounds. I mean, if that's you're obviously right. I'm not reading it, but if it was orchestrated, obviously that was just a clever move. But I wonder how, because Jahar, does he have a well? I mean,
I don't know. I have no clue. I know Jahar goes missing for a while, and they do note that.
hmm,
But like, who would be this person that they someone? Well, we know somebody has to have a well or something to
yeah,
trigger this detection. So it sounds like it was orchestrated by Cad Swain,
okay.
basically, so that say, hey, the Dragon Reborn's here, and look, he can channel a little bit. So let
In
us
your
do our
space,
work. Yeah, let us do our work. And this is like probably why Elise is like, okay, we'll all give you quarters here, and you can go ahead and find the Dragon Reborn and do what you need to do.
I had forgotten that. If that, yeah, like I did not realize that, or I'd forgotten.
I just realized that now, basically. I did not come to the realization until now in
That's
the
cool.
notes where they mentioned that Jahar had left for a little while.
It
And
makes
then
sense.
and I'm thinking, how did this thing get triggered in the first place?
That's clever, Dusty, because all your points add up. Jahar's missing. He's one of them. He channels. He's a good channel, safe with them. And Swain knows about Wells. Cad Swain has weird Terangriel. It's entirely possible.
Yeah, I just don't know where a male version of the well would have come from.
But
They
she
never
has
explained this.
all sorts. She has all sorts. Cad Swain does.
Okay. Well, I
Like
know
she
she
has
hands them out to like everybody else,
no, normally
but
not. But I remember like she has like in her hairnet, in her oh they have a proper name for it. Just shows how long it's been since I
something
read this.
net, a paralysis net or something, praxis
Yeah,
net.
Alice's net. She
Uh,
has one of the things that's interesting is she definitely has a bird in that net that reacts to male channeling. And so
mm,
that suggests that in a way that the white tower race and I do not, she has a grasp of male channels. And remember, Cad Swain brought in a lot of male channelers. In
mm,
the canon, she's involved in the taking of the last false dragon, etc. I know that's not what they chose to do with the TV show, but it's in the books. That's canon, and so it's like she's known as like an excellent person for dealing with male channelers. So maybe she knows more about that. So again, I don't think that's ever stated in black and white in the books. But what you just said there makes good sense. But I could easily have forgotten. It's been years since I read this. So
mm,
that's a great call, Dusty, and absolutely in line with Cad Swain's behavior.
right. So I think we can go into the next chapter. It's
Yeah,
called
yeah,
Bonds, and it's from Rand's point of view. Rand right now he's chilling in the inn playing his flute.
yeah.
Interesting enough, this music that he's playing is not something that originates within his own psyche, but
Mm,
it comes from Luce Theron.
yeah.
So it's some type of melody that Luce Theron has passed off to him
That's
that
just
he's
pointing out that
playing.
he's getting more that way, right? That's the only reason for doing that is just pointing out that he's becoming more and more like Lucifer, and the two of them are merging in his madness.
Hmm.
Yep.
So it's weird. It seems that Rand has more of at least Luce Theron under control at this point in the series. I know earlier in the series there were points where Luce Theron like almost drove him to broke a seal.
Yeah.
So he's managed to control him pretty well up until this point. So right now, Rand is completely aware that Alana is somewhere within the city because he can sense her through the bond, and he is kind of expecting some type of meeting to happen since she's nearby. Um, Also, we learn about a viewing that Min has had regarding Olivia, and she believes that Olivia, in some sense, is to help Rand die.
Yeah. And she does
So
not like
there's not, Yeah, it's not really clear. So they think Olivia is basically dangerous to Rand's health. So while they're in this room, they hear knocking on the door. Min wants to make Alana jealous. She thinks Alana's on the other side. So she really like snuggles up to him and, tries to look like they were snuggling up to each other. But
Yeah,
it's
this is
not
fine.
it's not Alana that comes through the door. It's actually Cad Swain. She is followed by Alana, but Cad Swain is the first to enter. Um, there is some funny things that happens after Cad Swain leaves. Um, Alana asks Rand what the hell he did because when Rand got it on with Elaine, Alana got knocked out for 3 days. Um, that was interesting. Um, well, it was like the whole process that the bonding and getting um, underway.
Yeah.
But she got basically um, she got knocked unconscious. Rand does explain that he has bonded others, but he doesn't tell her who they are. Um, and we could obviously see Rand able to interpret through the bond that she carries some jealousy and anger for what he did.
Mhm.
So we get to learn about the sisters from Dumais Wells. These are the ones that um, put him in the box, and they're now supposedly loyal.
Yep.
Uh, doesn't Min have some type of prophecy regarding these particular sisters?
She said when they did swear to her that swear to him that it was real. Like she's like she can tell like none of them will turn on you. The ones who have sworn, like when it happened at that moment in demand, the ones who swore to him there on then. So like the not the bad ones who switch, but the ones he says kneel or you will be knelt, and they
Hmm.
swear. Then she tells them like these are yours now. They're like body and soul. Um, and obviously one of the ones who switches is Elsa, and like we get to know reasonably early that she's like bad news, but we also know that Min said that they all mean it, their oath. And so it's like, how can that be? And so I think Elsa is a fantastic example of like how
How
Robert,
powerful that oath is.
yeah, but also how Robert Jordan used oaths and prophecies to like say, I'm going to tell you the future, but I'm going to constantly keep you guessing about what the future means. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
yeah, for
that's
sure.
part of the beauty of this series because there's loads of different ways that prophecies happen, right? There's foretellings, there's Min, there's prophecies of the dragon, there's the snakes and the foxes. There's just so many different ways that it's all in there. And then it's for us to sort of play a puzzle game with what Jordan's given us. And the fact that Elsa is clear, well, to us, the reader, we can figure out that she's evil. I mean, and we're given loads of clues, and she was obviously one of the people who put him in the box. But at the same time, for some reason or some manner, she wants him to survive to the last battle. And then realizing that there's more than one motivation for the shadow is really cool. I think it's a really good mechanic. It really helps me understand that even though those who fall in the shadow are bad, there's a huge variation between them. And I think that makes them more effective as villainous characters.
Hmm. Yes. So, in the interaction between Rand and Alana, Rand really doesn't want Alana around, so he does
Get out.
order her to basically take care of some issue that's going on with some rebels. One of the other pieces of information that she passes on to Rand is that Dahmer Flynn
Yeah.
figured out how to
Heal.
reverse, yeah, reverse distilling. So those sisters that Rand had stilled during Dunmai's Wells are now restored, and I believe they're also sworn as
Yeah,
well.
definitely. They don't let any
Uh,
of them leave until they are.
right. So they're basically going. If they haven't been apprenticed and graduated the Wise One apprenticeship, then they're probably going through that process in one form or fashion. Uh, Next one, we get an interesting POV here from Varen.
Love
We-
Varen.
So, Varen and um, so Varen has. I don't know if you could call it. There's a point in here where Varen is kind of talking to Cad Swain. But Varen was actually out on her own for a little bit in the city, and she was returned. And when she returned to see Cad Swain, Elsa is confronting Cad Swain about Alana because I guess this is a game of houses thing here.
Yeah,
um, Interesting enough, Rand sending Alana away now. Alana can't be used as a tool to find him.
correct.
Uh, so there's kind of like a motive, like a underlying motive that Rand had in doing this.
Mm.
Even though he really kind of needs Cad Swain by her, but he understands that Alana can be a dangerous tool in the wrong hands if you know somebody got a hold of her. So Elsa is angry about
Yeah.
Alana being sent away, which is interesting. Why would Elsa
Well,
be
she's
angry at
fanatically
that?
supportive of Rand, isn't she, now that she's sworn? And like,
Right, she is, but Elsa is also a conflicted character
yes, absolutely. As stated.
because, yeah, we'll talk about that later when that gets revealed. But
Yeah.
um, Cadswain is well aware that her role in being by Rand and supporting Rand is
Yeah.
to make sure he does not lose himself.
Yeah. That's what
Um,
she decides to do.
yeah, so he needs to make sure that he remains, um, I don't know what you want to call it, like
Human.
emotionally stable.
Well,
You
even if
know,
it's not fully emotionally stable, like not a complete rock. And like because he's going way beyond. I don't know if Rand can be emotionally fully stable, but like I think she's just trying to, make sure he doesn't literally jump off the precipice. She knows he can't be like fine because he's like got the taint and all this, but she's
mhm,
like, I just got to stop him becoming completely inhuman. And one of the cool things is, I don't think Cat Swain realized it, but her being open, and she is open just for a little bit about
mhm.
that with Varen, and it saves her life.
Yes,
I
yes,
love
it
that
does.
because it's just so quiet, but I love
It's
it.
almost, do you think the Taviraness played a role here in that revelation? Her being a little bit open with Varen because Rand needs her. I know he doesn't like her, but he needs her.
He
So do you
does.
think possibly like the Tavernus played a role in her divulging like what she wants to do with Rand while Varen
Varen?
is there?
Mm.
I think it's possibly that this is a Tavernus
Yeah,
working here.
because there was a chance she would say that, but it was a small chance, and like it just pulls that because it's what's needed at the time.
Right, because Varen was about to poison
Kill
her.
her.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
like
Yeah,
because
that
Varen.
was pretty shocking when I first read that. I was like, what is Varen doing?
Well, I kind of thought, Varen has shown in multiple instances that she is determined that Rand be protected.
Mhm.
The way she did things at Two Rivers, the way she did things after the box fight when she makes those women swear to Rand, even using the
Uh-huh.
compulsion / torture. Like, so I thought it was like she's worried that Cadsuane intends to control Rand, wants to be, the power
Mhm.
behind the throne. Like, is Cadsuane going to become the Littlefinger of this series? And
Kind
and
of.
and she's like, I'm not. If you're going to try and do that, guess what? You won't see this coming. And Cadsuane wouldn't have. And so it was like, holy crumbs. And look where she's doing it, in a place where women can't channel. So
Mhm.
if she got poisoned, she couldn't just immediately be healed. So by the time they get her out where she can be, probably already dead. And remember, the weaves don't bring back someone from the dead. So she's
Right.
obviously, Beren is clever. She's picked her moment. If she's going to kill her, this is the place. And then she doesn't. And it's
Right.
such a cool moment because by not doing it, and she doesn't tell us why she's not doing it, she just, Cadsuane says what she says, and Varen puts it away. And like,
Mhm.
no one else except her and us know. And that is such a cool writer's move. And I love it.
Right. So I just got the notification from my Bluetooth headset. And apparently, I just need to change the battery on this bad boy because it is running out. So let me just switch it out really quickly here so I can resume. Well, I guess I gotta find the battery first. But yeah, that's pretty much the end of that chapter. It
Yeah, yeah,
ends with
absolutely.
her putting that poison back into her pocket. Yeah, she was about to poison her tea. Um, but yeah, let's see here. Give me 1 second.
No problem. Just
Where
while
did
you're
I
doing that,
put this?
I'll just talk. So one of the things I think is very interesting about Aes Sedai is, again, they're showing that these women who are very, very powerful are just as fragile as anyone else. And like sometimes when we talk about the white cloaks, people are like, what threat could they be to a real Aes Sedai? But the point is, if an Aes Sedai doesn't know, you can just shoot her with an arrow and she dies. They don't have like permanent magical shields around them or anything like that. And that's the thing with Cadsuane. Cadsuane is one of the most clever and powerful women. But if someone she trusts gives her some tea and she drinks it, she dies like anyone else. And I think it's a useful reminder that everyone in this series is extremely, extremely human. Even though there's healing, it isn't like super duper healing that you can be like, it's not like Wolverine healing. And
Mhm.
so I think those little moments remind us of the mortality of our characters.
Right. So yeah, we can get into this next chapter.
Go for
It
it.
is going to be from the point of view of Elaine, and it
Okay.
is
What's
called
happening?
Expectation.
Oh,
So
I don't remember this.
it's
So,
just a Teleron meeting
okay.
for the
Yeah.
most part. So Elaine and Egwene meet up in Teleran,
Hmm.
and basically they just discussed like the progress of the rebel Aes Sedai army and them encroaching Tarvalin. Um, she is concerned about like rumors going around about because there were some rumors. I'm not sure who they were started by. Could have been started by the White Tower, but the rumors were that Rand had sworn fealty to the Armelin seat. This could definitely cause some potential issues amongst the various groups that follow Rand.
Yeah.
Um, so that does definitely throws a wrench in some of his social relations with some of these other groups. Um, so yeah, they just have a little bit of discussion about political maneuvering and stuff like that. So after that, Elaine snaps back to reality, and Avienda has been bunking with Elaine,
Mhm.
and we get to see like their relationship really kind of grow.
Yeah.
It's I guess a relationship. It's almost a more than sisters thing. That's starting to happen with between them.
Hmm. I think
Um,
you see that like the relationship between the Power Girls changes as the series progresses and becomes much more equal. And one of the things it shows is that as they begin to accept each other more as full adults and with each other's strengths and weaknesses, and same with Avienda, Min, and Elaine, as they
mhm.
accept each other, their ability to have their own relationships is strengthened, and then they as individuals are empowered.
Right, because right in the beginning of the book, it seems like their narratives were super intertwined. Like Nynaeve seemingly seemed like the leader of the group,
Mm,
and then once they get split up, their characters develop in different ways.
mm,
So at this point, Elaine is being pampered because everyone knows that she's pregnant.
yeah,
Weirdly enough, there's kind of these rumors that she wants to be spread around,
yeah,
that the child is not the dragon reborn. So this is basically to keep the child safe.
yes,
Uh, because imagine, some Forsaken finding out that it's Rand's kid. They could basically capture her and, do whatever they want to force Rand to
yes,
submit to them in some form or fashion.
agreed.
So the rumor is that the captain of the guard is the one that has impregnated her.
Yeah, which
Uh,
is not good, but there you go.
no, because that guy's pretty
He's
horrible.
he sucks. Yeah.
He's a dark friend. But anyway, um, it's Nori. She has some conversations with Nori, and it looks like the alum deal that she's going forward. She's already received some funds for that in advance for that venture. And now, because of that, they could expand the guard because um, what's her name? So many freaking characters. Braid Woman, Silverbow, Brigida. She, on her suggestion, she wanted to make the guard bigger.
Yes.
So now she has more money to do so. And they found more spies. Renee
Yeah. Game of
found
houses.
some spies. Yeah, the game houses stuff. All right, so the important bit of this chapter is previously Elaine sent out Marililla to scout out what the Borderlanders were doing and to try to get some information about that.
Hmm.
Marililla was more than happy to do so because this got her out of teaching the Windfinders, which she hates. I think both Aes Sedai do not care for teaching them.
No.
So this got her out of those duties. So she reports back on what she found. Uh, so I guess there's around 200,000 soldiers that have gathered, and for now they're staying put. So she did talk to some of these Borderlander lords and ladies, and they do wish to meet with Elaine. Um, and they just want to talk to her. She wants to talk to them just to make sure um, that there's no animosity between these two groups. Because
Yeah.
if she sees like this huge army moving
Yeah.
in her direction, she
Yeah.
needs to know why they're doing that. So that's kind of what this whole scouting business was about.
One of the
Um,
things, one of the things I think we should just point out just before we move on is that it's already a big army, right? Especially for Randlan armies. But it's not that it's just a big army; it's a big army of freaking Borderlanders. And so, if people aren't familiar with the books, one of the things that is very clear is, and Borderlanders are tougher than everyone else except the Ale, the Aiel.
yeah, they're basically like the badass of the wetlands.
Yeah, they're the Spartans. If the wetlands is Greece, they're the Spartans. And so it's just like these are the ones who are up there fighting the Trollocs, while everyone else is just pandering around with their game of houses. If the Borderlanders got interested in military conquest, they could kick some serious trash. And so, like, Elaine's got to genuinely worry that if these Borderlanders decide that Rand isn't the dragon and that he's not the person they're allied behind, and they come marching into Andor, which is currently fractured, remember, and is not really united behind her, it could just be an absolute bloodbath. And so, like, yeah, 200,000 is a lot, but 200,000 Borderlanders is more. You know, these are lands people. That's like, yeah.
Yeah, so right in the next chapter,
she goes.
So we have kind of a game of houses thing. So I know that one of her, she's juggling a couple different situations right now.
Yeah.
So right now there are a couple houses that are banding together to possibly usurp her claim for Andor. And she almost wants to use the Borderlanders as a ruse to say, hey, this army is actually for me, and you don't want to mess with them. So she's trying to use the Borderlanders' reputation, size, to assert her, like how powerful that she can be. She's using this against her enemies in Andor. Also, she's asking them, what are you guys doing? What are you guys doing up here? So they have a meeting. Basically, the only thing they really want to do is meet with Rand. The Borderlanders have their own prophecies.
Yeah, of course they do.
And yeah, it's like everybody has their own prophecies. We have the Cormor, we have the Borderlanders, we got everybody. Yeah, all these different prophecies. So yeah, they want to meet with Rand because they basically believe that they should be at his beck and call, but they really need to speak with him to see how they can be useful to him.
Yeah.
So one of the reasons why the Borderlanders wanted to meet with Elaine is because they believe that Elaine would have some knowledge of his whereabouts.
Absolutely.
Elaine said that she didn't know where he was at the moment, but she would share that information when it became possible. So basically, with this, they basically negotiated like a peaceful truce between each other. I know the talks got a little heated. There's a lot of Game of Housey stuff that went on in this little discussion here that I thought was really interesting.
Yeah, it was interesting, and there is a lot of subtext. But the key point is, in the end, none of these people are for the Shadow, and so because of that, like, they might have disagreed, they might not have supported her, but they were never going to really attack Andor. Very, very unlikely. Like that's like they after this conversation, we as the reader know, they are the Borderlanders that we know. They are legit. They just want to get a hold of the dragon so they can actually find out what's going on. And but Elaine shows here that she's grown up. You know, she shows that yes, she's still Elaine. She's the good girl that she's always been, but now she understands that she's got to use every advantage, and she knows this Borderlander army will be spooking the other Andor nobles just like it spooked her. She's been able to use her abilities and her position to come and secure the information, but it doesn't mean that they have to know that yet, and controlling that information gives her the advantage.
Yeah, one of the interesting things here too that I completely forgot because there's so many freaking characters in Wheel of Time.
Is like it's Fail's aunt.
Well, yeah, we'll know that Tenobia seems to be the power amongst this group.
Yep.
So it seems like everyone defers to her. Also, one of the lords that was present in this meeting is also one of the lords that was in the TV show.
Yep.
And I completely forgot about that character. I actually thought he was made up until his name was mentioned here again. It's like, oh shoot, he is a real character.
So many of them.
Yeah. So, yeah, they come to an agreement basically, and she gateways back,
Yep. Because she can.
and, and she's like really tired. She goes to sleep, but unfortunately, Nori really wants to get some important info to her.
Mm-hmm.
And Nori informs her that there are armies um, approaching Camelin, which
Oh
I
yeah.
assume are the rebels. She says 30,000. He says 30,000.
Yeah.
Um, and now with the rest of the money from the advance, she wants to use it to hire mercenaries and
Mm.
buy food stores just in case they have to endure some type of siege.
And there's always
So,
that problem, isn't there, with mercenaries? Is are they going to be reliable? Are they going to turn
right.
on you? But it's all about like that's the whole threat for this bit is like, will there be enemies inside the gates? Because really, it's civil war, isn't it? It's not like
Hmm.
the Borderlanders against the Andorrans. It's going to be Andor versus Andor. And one of the things that like we might be tempted to go is like, why didn't you just say to the Borderlanders like, come down and get my throne for me? But we know that she's very much against that because of what happened with Rand. When Rand tried to give her the Andorian throne, she was furious with him. Like she
Hmm.
knows that to be a legitimate ruler, she has to do it the Andor way.
Yeah, in order to get respect from her people,
Yeah, if she's going
else
to
it's
keep
just
it for
going
the
to
future,
seem.
yeah, it has to be done right.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, she
Anyway,
doesn't want to be seen as a puppet
correct.
leader.
100%.
Um, let's see. Oh, great. Next chapter, we got Matt.
Yay, bit of Matt. Back to Matt.
All right, so this whole time, Matt has been setting up plans to escape Hagar.
Yep.
Um,
He's
and
he's going to try and get the Aes Sedai out, though, isn't he, as well? Like we know that now
man,
from
there's so much stuff that's on his plate. So he's trying to get himself out. He's trying to get um, one of the Aes Sedai who is in hiding out.
Yep.
He is trying to break out a couple Aes Sedai that were made Damane
Money.
out. And he's trying to do this in a fashion that doesn't draw suspicion for like 24 hours. So he has enough time to escape. So far, his plans now are, I believe, to dress up the escaped Damane as Damane and have some fake Sul'dam to escort them out the gates.
Yep.
One of the things he needs is like an okay from a higher up
Mhm.
in order to have the right documentation. But right now, in this, he asked Julian to acquire Idom and some demonic clothes. And
And
Julian is really not happy about this
I thought
because
he did it.
Matt's like, no, not did he do it already?
No, oh no,
No,
I'm just
no.
saying he isn't happy. I didn't remember him being happy, but I know he does it. Like he does it, right?
Yeah,
He
he
ends up,
does it eventually,
yeah, yeah.
but
Okay.
Matt's logic is, oh, you're a thief catcher, so you must know
How to
like
steal
how.
stuff.
Yeah, that's what pisses Julian off. He just gets really mad, assuming that he can be a thief because he catches thieves.
Oh, yeah, that would get under his skin.
He does agree eventually,
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
uh, but he also wants to, because he's trying to get out one particular person
Because he's in
that is a
love.
Vale. Yeah. The particular person is one of Suros Docavale,
Yeah.
which is the former leader of Tanchico, right?
Yep. Yep.
The Panarch, was she the
Yeah.
Panarch of
She
Tanchico?
was, but she's been utterly like reduced now in her slavery. Like she's not like
Because
causing
Perseus
any.
changed a lot.
Yeah.
She's
Slavery
become
will
like
be
a completely submissive, all of her confidence is gone now.
correct.
So we do see that Juan seems to show up at inconvenient moments. And every time it just seems like she's just glaring at him, but doesn't approach him to say anything.
Women.
Um, so there's another, like they basically start to plan things out. Beslin, which is one of the people that's under fire. So much stuff going on here. Beslin is just like one of the Suldam who knows the secret.
Yeah.
So she said that she was going to start some type of distraction in to help during the escape.
Uh-huh.
Um, but at the end of the chapter, they're having a lot of hard time acquiring the things that they need, except Julian is actually able to find the dresses and the IDOM. But none of the other stuff that they need to get ready is in place yet. Um, so we can go to the next chapter, which is another plan.
Yeah, I think this is all just like they get ready to go, right? I mean, for the purposes, it's like they find the people who they can do it with. I think Eagin helps, and I think they like because like they need Soldum, and we know that Eagin knows some Soldum who are blackmailable because of what happened in Falmy right at the beginning, right? Because when Egwene gets freed all those years ago, she left her Soldan chained up with an Adam, which is what proved the secret in the first place. And
Yeah,
so,
so Egyanin is well aware of the secret,
yeah,
and she's using this to control a couple
correct.
of the Damane. So in
And
this chapter,
Soldan,
basically, we have two characters that are in a dilemma that need to leave the city. We got Matt
yeah,
and we got Egyanin.
yeah,
So Bail Domon fosters this meeting
yeah,
because so he gets introduced, and man, was Egyanin exactly what Matt needed.
yeah.
It seems like, because we do know that Matt is also a Taviran.
He is.
So this can actually be part of that as well. The perfect meeting, chance meetings that happen that makes things easier on them. This is exactly what we needed. So basically, Matt says, "Hey, can you get some Soldav for me for my plan?" And she's like, "Yeah, of course, I'll get some Soldav." Um, so yeah, Aegean talks to Tom and Julian. Matt is like, "You know these two?" And again, it kind of explains how they met and how he even knows like Nynaeve. So this is very surprising information because he's not going to trust a Sean Chan,
No.
but he has Bail Domon vouching, even though Matt's memory of the Bail Domon interaction isn't that great.
Yeah, but it happened.
Yeah, it happened, but he doesn't remember it quite as well because of what was happening with him
His
at the
brain.
time.
Yeah.
So yeah, they form that kind of collaboration, and the plan does change a little bit now. At least now it becomes more viable because they have the Suldam. Actually, Matt reads Egyanin because he's trying to figure out why would somebody of the blood come to me for help. And he does figure out, he figures it out by saying something and watching how she reacts to it.
Yeah,
So he guesses correctly that a seeker is after her, and by her reaction to him alleging that kind of seals the deal.
yeah.
So it's like, okay, she'll be reliable as long as the seeker is after her. So yeah, we can go ahead and use each other to get out of this city.
And they do.
Yeah. So Matt talks about the planned amendments to Tom and Julian, and they agree. The plan gets sped up a bit, so they're gonna leave. I think the next day or next evening, and Matt's basically really nervous about everything that's gonna happen. Hopefully, it falls into place. Uh, Next chapter,
Is the escape
cold,
right?
fat raindrops. Yeah.
Well, not yet then. So bit of the escape, maybe. It's a few chapters
Um,
of escape.
yeah, so in this chapter, it's more getting ready to
Yeah.
leave. It's people gathering, it's getting over. I think one of the things we find out is about, because I know one of the things that falls through is the lady with big boobs. I forgot her name. That
Oh
was
yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah. It's a Tal Anon.
no, no,
The
no,
one.
not Satala Anan. Satala Anan is like the innkeeper. Like the
Oh,
big boob lady was the one that was like
that they like
tutoring
that they would always like
Oliver.
rest their head on and all this.
Yes, that lady.
Yeah.
Like they
So
were gonna use her for the plan, but I think she actually was getting married to like
it's
a
not going to
per
work.
yeah, because she was getting married and she was not allowing anybody to rest their head on her boobs. I know Matt and Tom were both two characters that rested their heads on her
On that
boobs.
particular thing. But the reason I thought you were going to mention Satal is because I know Satal thinks that she might be able to be a Soldan, but she can't. And
Yeah,
that goes
yeah.
into the fact that we believe that she's a still Aes Sedai. In fact, we got that confirmed afterwards in the appendices. But so what it shows is that you do have to have the ability to channel to be a Soldan. You can, if you've been stilled, you can't be. So even if you're not actively channeling, you have to have the ability still. And so that's one of the times when that's proven
Mm.
because
Yeah,
she tries it.
so
She tries it.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Let's see. So yeah, they're just basically gathering, getting the last details. Julian says that he's going to need to get Thera out of the palace, which is short for Amathera. And Matt goes off to meet with Aegianan and her fake Soldams. Well, they're not fake; they're actually real Soldams, but they're under the control of Aegianan. Next chapter. I think next chapter is like the escape. Let's see.
Yeah, yeah. Is this the Tuan chapter?
Oh yeah, I love this chapter. If it is, let me
You've got to
see.
be close. I mean,
Well, yeah, this one. Yeah, this is definitely. I could tell by the title. What the Aelfin said.
there we go. Okay, good.
um, so Matt still has a few tasks to do before the escape happens.
Hmm.
One of those is freeing the Damane that are in the kennels of the palace.
Yeah,
So he goes to the sea folk room, one of the sea folk rooms. So he's doing something that basically what he does is he wakes one of the sea folk up that's a
a wind
one of the
finder.
Damane, and
Yeah,
he talks with her to find out if she's sufficiently like not under
yeah. If she hasn't
the
broken, if she's
conditioning.
unbroken.
Yeah, so he's able to determine that she has not broken yet,
Yeah,
and he teaches her how to open the collars,
yeah,
which is weird because I'm thinking I thought they couldn't even touch the collars
If they're in them, they can't.
if they're
So like
in
he
them.
unlocks hers, and once she's out, she can do what she likes. Because
Hmm.
the collars aren't like electrical or whatever. It is that when
Oh,
you
they can unlock the other collars, but
yeah,
not their own. Is that how it works?
well, if no, if you have a collar on, you can't touch anyone's Adam. But as soon as the collars are off, the Adam are just metal clasps. So as long as you know the trick to opening them, you can undo anyone's. But it's just if you've got one on, you can't touch
Uh-huh.
anyone's. And so he unlocks hers, but I believe he tells her, "Look, I know you're out now, but you've got to give me time, otherwise I can't let you out." And she makes a deal with
Hmm.
him, and he knows that the Athenmere keep their deals really sacred. I think he has a
Uh-huh.
memory that Athenmere take bargains very seriously. So when she gives him her word, I don't know how long they give a time frame. I cannot remember for the life of me how long, a couple of hours or something like that. And he says, "Look, I will give you this chance if you will not ruin my plan." And so she's like,
Hmm.
she's up for it. So he unlocks her, he shows her how to unlock the collars, and then he's like, "In so many hours, go nuts." And she's like,
Oh, so he says 3 hours.
"Oh, you've got it in front of you. There you go."
Yeah.
And but like, and she holds to that deal, and so he can get out. And then of course that's the mother of all distractions. And he was
Hmm.
really clever to pick the Seafolk because we know they're stubborn gits. And apart from the Aiel, I can't think of any group who'd be harder to break. And so, of course, the arrogant gits that they are, they've kept some of their independence and they've only pretended to be broken. And so, when she unleashes those other Windfinders, they're going to try and retake their ships and they're going to cause a freaking storm. And one of the other cool things is guess what the Windfinders don't have? The three oaths. So, guess what the
Hmm.
Windfinders can do? They can
They
use
can
the one
fight
target.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're actually dangerous once they're loose.
Correct.
Um, so yeah, he teaches her how to unclasp it a couple times and make sure that she well enough knows what to do.
Yep.
They do the bargain. He leaves, but as
Yep.
he's leaving in the hallway, like the head Soldam is out there talking to Aegianin, um, which Aegianin is actually running interference for Matt, because
Yep.
if she didn't, he would have been caught right now.
Yep.
Still, he also noticed that Teslin is being led by this head Soldam, which I think Teslin was one of the Suldam that he was supposed to free, right?
Yep. Yep. One of the demoni that he was intending to free.
Yeah, one of the Damane. And I think Teslin is also the one that tried to fake um, obedience, and that Damane trainer saw through that and started doing some really harsh conditioning from
Yeah.
that point on. So Gyanin distracts this Suldam and Matt gets away. Um, on his way out, he's still wrapping stuff up. One of the things he does is he goes to his room in the palace that he shares with the queen. And the queen is like expected to be off on some trip for a while, but she's actually home early, and I think she slaps him um, for not telling him. But ultimately, she's definitely okay that he's leaving because she knows that that he's tied with the dragon and he has things that he needs to do. Um, so it's interesting here because Matt genuinely, even though he's leaving, he genuinely seems to care about her a lot.
Absolutely.
And um, I think she like cries, like sheds a tear. But
Yeah.
basically, he's like, now that you're here, this is going to go very bad for you. because you weren't supposed to be here, and he wanted to make sure that she was not complicit in his escape. So she instructs him to tie her up and throw her under the bed,
And he's
which
well
she
into
allows.
that, so he does it.
Yeah, he does it.
It's gone the other way enough times.
Yeah, true. So yeah, they share a kiss. He ties her up, throws her under the bed, and gets out of there. As he's leaving down the halls, um, he goes into the stable yard and he finds Tuon there. And Tuon right away like tries to fight him. Apparently, she knows how to fight pretty well. She holds her own for the most part, and she has like a big fat smile while they're fighting. Eventually, um, like she is not. The fight isn't going as well as Matt wanted it to. So what happens is Noel pops in, and I think
He grabs hold of Tuan.
yeah, he like holds her from behind. I'm guessing in like one of those ways that restricts like her arm
Yeah,
movements.
absolutely. Because one of the things that this is showing is that Tuan is actually proficient in hand-to-hand combat in a way that even Matt is not.
Yeah, like with just she's able to fight with her without weapons, and like
Yeah,
like you said, Matt's not well versed in fisticuffs.
he is not. Not well, like it suggests that she has something similar to martial art training.
Right. So yeah, they try to figure out what the hell they're gonna do with her. Because he knows that she's very dangerous to be left out. Initially, Matt's just like, yeah, let's just tie her up, bound her up, and stuff her with a gag. Until Julian shows up with Amathera, and Amathera knows who she is. So Amathera says, that is Huon, the daughter of the Nine Moons, and this clicks with Matt, and he's like, "Holy crap!" Um, he acts on that, and he's like, "Oh, I'm gonna marry you then. Like, what are we gonna do with her?" He's like, "Oh, I'm gonna marry her," and everyone's like, gasped,
I,
shocked.
I think he says like, "You're my bloody wife. You're my wife. You're my bloody wife." He said it 3 times. It's very important that he does.
Yeah, he tells her that he's her wife.
And he's really just like saying it out loud. He's like, "Oh my goodness, you're like my wife. You're my wife. You're my wife." But what he doesn't realize is that in Shangchang culture, that's how you start a wedding. You say to the woman, "You're my wife" 3 times, and if she says back to you, "You're my husband" 3 times, you're married. And so
Mm,
Tuan thinks that he knows this, and that this is a like this is him trying to get her to agree to marry him, which is just ridiculous, right? But
mm,
he's actually just like talking out loud, going, "Oh crap, this is the one that they said I would marry. This is the one they said I would marry." But he actually uses those words, and it's one of the reasons Tuan doesn't make much of an effort to get free, which she could clearly do. And it mentions that, like for example, even though they cover her mouth like that, she doesn't really try and scream for help or anything. So it's just interesting.
mm.
Suggesting that Tuan isn't against the idea. And remember, when she first saw Matt, she did try and buy him. So it suggests that there's already like a physical attraction there, even at
Yeah,
this early stage.
yes. He says, "You're the bloody daughter of the Nine Moons. The bloody daughter of the Nine Moons is my wife." After he said this, Seleucia shows up. Seleucia's like,
Her
is
maid,
Seleucia also like combat trained, like in
she is
hand-to-hand combat?
Seleucia is more than just trained. Seleucia makes Tuon look like a child. Seleucia is definitely meant to be like she is Tuon's secret bodyguard. So she
So
is like
she's like a battle maid, like a
she is,
battle.
and she's specifically meant to be like an invisible bodyguard. Like no one's supposed to like be able to realize that actually she is one of the most deadly things around. But Seleucia is Dakoval. She's Tuon's property. So remember that as well.
Right. I know Seleucia basically threatens Matt with death.
and she could kill him, and she could kill him. That's the thing.
Right.
Like, Kat doesn't realize it, but she could absolutely kill him.
So yeah, I guess they come to an agreement,
Yeah,
and Celicia says she would promise to obey Matt as long as she didn't hurt um, too long.
yeah,
Um, Noel basically says, "Hey, what are we going to do with these women? We're just going to like tie them up and toss them." And Matt's like, "No, we're taking them with us."
yeah,
Um, so yeah, they head off. Um, let's see, and then we can get into the next chapter.
yeah.
I think this is probably the best chapter in the escape arc. There's so much stuff happens. Like it's like bam, 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 all this stuff. So
Correct.
next chapter is we get back to Rand. It's a portion of wisdom. So we're back in formatting. Rand is still trying to find the renegade
Ashman.
Ashaman,
Yeah,
and he heard some rumors about the Torval. Like he was talking to different shopkeepers and stuff with uh, the description of Torval, and some said that he has some sort of routine to go to a shop. What was it, like a bakery or a shoemaker shop? Or it was some shop that he was bunking in or something like that. Um, so Rand is just kind of staking out the location, and Varen shows up and gives Rand the news that the Shan Chan are moving on Ilion. So that whole war that we saw in the last book ultimately didn't deter the Shan Chan from moving forward in their conquest plans. It's at this time that Rand caves to accepting Cad Swain as his advisor. And it's
yeah.
funny because Varen did the proper vetting, so to speak.
Absolutely.
um,
But also
so,
Min, right? Min's vision has a lot of weight with him.
right.
Yeah.
I don't think Varen did. I don't think Varen knew about the vision, right?
No, no, no. What I'm saying is that Varen has an influence on Rand, but also Min's vision has an influence on Rand. I'm just saying that Rand accepting Cad Swain is partially thanks to Varen's support, but it's partially thanks to Min's support as well.
Yeah. So at this point, Rand is also feeling because this has been a week that they've been
Yeah.
in formatting, and none of his clues have or leads have actually led up to anything. So he's like, yeah, let me just go ahead and leave tomorrow. So when he gets back to the inn, he has a message,
Yeah.
a very cryptic message that
Well, not that great.
explains, well, cryptic as in who the hell wrote it, you
Yeah.
know.
Okay.
Well, the message is very clear, but it's
Yeah.
not clear about where it came from
It's like, come here and find the people you're looking for.
and leave. So yeah, he gets this note from an anonymous person that seems to be on the up and up and formatting. So the note is phrased as if they want the Dragon Reborn to get out of the city. Um, at this point, Rand already knows that Kisman is dead,
Mhm.
and um, but the notes basically gives the location of where the last two are, and there's basically some street, some type of market street or something in in a busier part of the city.
Yeah.
So we go into the next chapter, which is Blue Carp Street. That's the location of their hideout.
Yeah.
Um, Rand is pretty certain that the note he received is a trap.
Yeah. The people you've been looking for and you're about to leave and give up on, they're here. This is exactly where. And he's been searching for all this time. Yeah, it's a trap, but he doesn't care. He wants it to happen. Like he deliberately came here thinking they're going to think the power is not here. They're going to come for me here. So he always knew it was going to be a trap one way or another. But yeah, it's extremely clearly a trap.
Yeah, so Min is like super concerned. Um, and Rand assures her, I was like, well, if I know it's a trap, it's not a trap.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm gonna have Nynaeve and Lan with me, who are
Yeah,
strong in their own right. Um, so he
especially
go ahead. Hmm,
Nanit has the well. I think this is the first time we see a well used
right. Um, Nynaeve, yeah, she has a well with her.
in the belt.
She does use it shortly, but yes, she does have one with her. Min is not satisfied
Nope.
with Rand's plan.
Mm.
So her first thing that she wants to do is like, tell Catswain about it, possibly help out. So next thing we know, Rand, and Nynaeve are checking out the area. I'm doing a little bit of investigation around the bootmaker's shop,
Yep.
and they see that they might be able to do a roof insertion.
Yep.
So once he gets up there, he does spot two men enter the building, and yeah, the way they got to the roof is Nynaeve used the well
That's it.
to use wind to transport them from the ground to the roof of the building.
Which normally would
Um,
be impossible in farm adding, so no one thinks that can happen.
yeah, so she used the well to perform this task. And after she performs it, she deduces that half of the well has been used. So either she needs to use the rest of it to get them down from the roof, or something else. So they go through, they enter a trap door in the roof that leads them to the attic. And once they're down there, Rand finds two bodies with
Mhm.
blackened, swollen faces. He deduces that at
This
least
is
one of them is one of the Ashraman that he was trying to take out. Rand is well aware of this effect, so he believes that they were killed by the ruby hilted dagger.
Yep.
He lets Lan know, hey, Fane's in the vicinity, and he comes to the conclusion that Fane is the one that wrote the letter.
Mhm.
Um, so when they're running through the bedroom, Fane almost gets him with the dagger.
Hmm.
And there's another guy with Fane, and it's Toram Ryoton. This
Yes.
is interesting because Toram Ryoton is pretty high nobility,
Yep.
and he is
In
now under the thrall, it seems, of Fane.
we saw this before. Remember when they were over in Carine and they go and see the rebels when Rand is under the mask of mirrors. Um, they mingle with them and they realize that Fane is there, kind of muttering sweet lies, being a grammar worm tongue to the rebels, and like, oh, and then now we see that that's like paid off here, that he's actually got inside Torum's head and he's controlled it, or he's managed to turn him into his follower instead of the other way around.
Yeah, because one of the interesting things that he's described as in the book is he looks gaunt and pale,
Yeah.
and his clothes look like beggar's clothes.
Mm.
So he's quite fallen from his high position as a carrion and noble to looking like a beggar in the streets. Um, so we know that Toram he's basically a sword master, right?
Yes, he is one of the absolute confirmed sword masters. It even mentions in one of the pieces that like how you become a sword master is you get verified by other sword masters, and that he has been verified by a number of them. I think there's a number that you have to have, either three or five, and it's actually he is a confirmed Heron Mark weapon wielder, which is why what happens next shows you how badass Lan is.
Yeah, so Lan basically tells Rand that he'll take on Toron
Yeah,
while Rand pursues
kill
Fane.
Fane, yeah.
Because Fane is kind of jets off down some stairs. Weird thing is Rand sees like this weird. I don't know what you want to call it. If it's does he have a hallucination, or is this something that
Well, this is
Fane
yeah.
does?
I know what you're talking about. Where he sees them walking up the stairs. That
Yeah,
is
he
like
sees.
a Fane ability. Fane has a few things that he can do that are never explained, and obviously must be something to do with the power that was wielded um, before. Because obviously he is what Mordeth, isn't he? He's the evil
Right.
that fought against the shadow. He like tried to kill evil with evil. So he must have some powers that aren't linked purely to the dagger, and this we think is one of them. And so he seems to have an ability, and he used it, I think, 3 times in the books, where he replays something that has recently happened, like an illusion. And this is one of those examples.
Mm.
He does it
So we
like
have this solution that is meant to throw Rand off,
correct.
but
It's a
Rand,
ambush him.
yeah, Rand is actually able to quickly adapt and figure out that that is some type of trick,
Yeah.
and he sees through that, and I think he actually gets Fane with a sword attack, and
He hits him, and so Fane cannot land a blow, and that's why Fane flees. Like
yeah, he flees.
he's
I
not going to
think
fight.
Lan,
It's meant to be like a quick ambush and stabbing, and it doesn't work.
right, and then Lan, I guess, defeated Toram.
Oh yeah, yes.
There is like a blood stain on Lan, but they don't really say if it's his or Toram's blood,
The
if
point
I'm
is
not
he beat him.
mistaken.
Yeah.
Yeah, he beat Toram. So Lan is like, hey, I can hear the guards gathering. We really need to get out of here. So they scramble up to the roof. When they move to the roof, I think Lan loses his grip and slips towards the edge of the roof.
Oh,
Rand,
got that. He tries to grab him.
yeah, yeah. So Rand grabs him, and
Mm.
Lan is like, "I'm too heavy. Let me go." And Rand's like, "No, we're not going to do that." But Rand doesn't listen to, or Rand doesn't listen to Lan, and they both fall off the roof. um, so we go into our next chapter here. I think Nynaeve, it's the next chapter. Let's see. Chapter 34. This story really moves super lightning speed these
Yeah,
last two
now it's
chapters.
been, and the thing is, it's been going slow, right? For some of this, like
Mhm.
the escape and like all the chit chat before, and like especially the Matt stuff, right? It took a while to get anywhere, and then this bit here, these next 2 chapters are just like, oh, by the way, we're finishing.
Lightning.
Yeah,
Yeah, lightning. It's like, wow. It's like they cram so much in the last two chapters.
I didn't know, and
Uh,
like when you read it for the first time, like there's
mhm.
no way that I thought that what was going to happen in the next chapter happened because like there isn't time to set it up. But that's Rand's whole
No,
point, is that it's a surprise. Yeah, it's a shock.
right. So yeah, we get Nynaeve's point of view. Nynaeve is on that street and she sees basically guards amassing in front of that house. So she's super worried. Um, she thinks that she needs to go ahead and create a distraction for Rand to get away, but she's quickly stopped by Cad Swain. And Min is with her too, and Min can feel through the bond that Rand is hurt and not conscious. So Nynaeve is like really, really anxious and really wants to attend to Rand in any way possible.
Mm.
Um,
And
but
Lan's there,
Cad
right?
Swain is, yeah, Cad Swain is trying to tell her you need to keep your cool here and
Mm.
just kind of walk away from the scene. And this is completely opposite to what Nynaeve wants to
Yeah,
do. Because Nynaeve's a healer.
and
So
it's
her
this
first
is
thing she
like,
wants to do is heal Rand because he's hurt.
and he's like her boy, right? He's her boy, and
Right.
Lan's her guy. So it's just like these are the like right close start. She was never going to ignore them willingly, and so yeah,
Yeah, so she wants to also see, make sure Lan is okay. But Olivia, um, with the help of Olivia, she's like hauled away.
yeah.
Um,
And we like you're thinking, how are all these guards here already? But the thing is, we know that even though the Terran Grail blocks channeling, we know it identifies channeling. And so it's probably the
right.
fact that she used the well in the first place, which is why they're here.
Yeah, Nynaeve thought incorrectly that the Girl only detected male channeling, and
Ah,
Cad Swain set her straight is like, no, it's all channeling, and you're the reason why the guards are here so quickly. So, if you want to not cause any more trouble, we need to get out of here as soon as possible because it wouldn't like imagine the authorities finding out that there was an Aes Sedai in this area where there was some female channeling going on. So
yeah.
they need to get out of there, and they do so. Um, but I don't believe the Terangrial differentiates
No,
between male and female channeling. It just
because
knows that channeling happened.
we learned that in
Yeah,
this chapter. So
right. So now we get Rand's point of view. He's basically in some type of prison. He's in pain.
yeah,
He's having some PTSD from his days from being locked in the box.
agreed.
Um, and he starts to think about all the women that he's killed. And he does contemplate about, Moraine a little bit here.
So unhealthy.
Next thing we get to Cad Swain. I thought this was super clever here.
Yeah,
So
it's
Cad Swain goes to the council
and she
and
understands these
says,
people. That's the key thing. She gets how scared they are, what they think of channeling, and she uses that in this moment.
yeah, she uses their fear of channelers against them. So what happens is this is really, really fun. So she goes up to the council and she says, I know who you have locked up and we're going to need him. Elise is playing really coy about it,
Mm,
but eventually, like Cad Swain shows them, hey, your system here is not as foolproof as you think it is. And what she does is um, she has, because I think Nynaeve is in the room, and
yeah,
she makes Nynaeve move her crown or whatever type of diadem she has in her
yeah,
head off of it
yeah.
or on it. I think it's on
Well,
her head.
I think they do both. So
Yeah, they do
because
both. I think she puts it on, but Cad Swain is pretending to do that instead of Nynaeve. And
well,
then she makes it known that the three Ashaman there are
Shaman.
specifically looking for Rand. And because we know how scary male channelers are, they make a show that the male channeler knocks the crown back off of her head. So Elise gets very scared because at this point, Cad Swain is showing that they found a way to bypass their Terangrial.
Yeah, and at this, like the thing is, just to recall, this is called the hummingbird secret, right? And
Mhm.
so it isn't actually Nynaeve who does it all. Cad Swain does one of them, and Nynaeve does the other. Because
Okay.
Cad Swain's, that's why it's called the hummingbird secret, because the hummingbird in her paralysis net is a well.
Okay.
like the belt is. And so the first, you're right. They do one and they suggest it's one of the women, and then they do one and suggest it's one of the men. And one of the key things as well is the channeling before was male, and so they're like, yeah, like your thing is not effective against us. And like
Mhm.
the Jahar Narishma thing that you suggested before, like that was probably Katsune, as you say, planting the seed of like, look, you can't stop us channeling. And it
Mhm.
absolutely freaks them out and allows Katsune to get away with an absolute coup in getting them to release Rand.
Yeah, so I know one of um, one of Cat Swain's afterthoughts is that she wished she didn't have to do that
Yeah,
to
because it
deceive.
absolutely ruins Alyssa. She's over now. It's
Yeah,
ruined her
so
career.
and it probably just like completely destabilized the leadership because she did this in front of everybody.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Uh, so that's what's interesting about formatting. Do we go back to formatting after
Never,
this?
never again.
Yeah, it'd
It's
be interesting if they had
that's
revisited it to see how this transformed like
yeah.
the city.
Like I say, it's such an interesting section. It's such an interesting city. It's Cad Swain's backstory, but this is the only bit we get in all the books.
Okay, so here's where we get like the lightning chain of events in this
Oh,
chapter, the next chapter, which is called With the Choden Call.
yeah, Choden call centrist. Yeah,
So Rand gets out, they all leave. Basically, Rand's presence, as well as everyone else, is stricken from the record.
yeah,
So nobody can know that they were here. Um, and now they're all happy that they can touch the source again.
yeah.
Um,
The sun comes back out.
yeah, so now
Start getting
the
all the cool
next
things, right? Time to get all my
all the
guns.
cool things, all the cool stuff happened. So Kalendor apparently got buried in the middle of the woods.
Yeah, he goes,
So
he goes, picks it up.
he goes and gets it. Such an important artifact. And it's at this point where he announces his plan to everybody that he intends to cleanse the taint and kind of explains how he's going to do it. He's going to use the male Choden call key, and Nynaeve will link using the female key.
Yeah,
Of course, Blue Theron goes nuts because he
yeah,
knows how dangerous that is.
yeah.
And everybody's basically tries to argue him out of that plan, um,
It's
minus like
interesting.
90.
The Aes Sedai probably don't even realize like how powerful the Choden Call are. Maybe Cat Swain and Naive, but what they're saying is like you're gonna try and cleanse the freaking taint. Like that's insane. Like utter insanity. And that's one of the only reasons that he gets to even try this is because the Dark One just doesn't see this coming. He just doesn't
Mhm.
think it can be done. And like
Yeah, they get thrown off like completely by what Rand is doing here.
yeah, correct. And they're just
Um,
pretty cool.
so one of the things that they kind of structure themselves in a way, I guess they don't really go over the full plan of what's going to happen,
Mm.
but he explains that they're going to do this at Shadow Logoth.
Yeah.
So here's one thing that they didn't explain well. Um, how did Lan get out of that situation
No,
from the rooftop?
I think I think Lan and Rand are imprisoned together. It's just Land's importance is so minor compared to the Dragonborn. I assume they found them.
Okay.
But you're right. It isn't well explained. I don't think they make the point in the book very clearly. But my understanding is because he won't let go of Rand, they both fall off the rooftop. They're unconscious, and then the guards find them, imprison them, and they are released as one.
Yeah, that's strange because
I think.
Lan is Nynaeve's warder, right?
Yep, correct.
So if they're bonded, like Nynaeve should have known if he was hurt or something.
Well, she did know. That's why she's freaking out. And
Okay,
they're like,
okay.
"You can't help him,"
So
and she's like, "But I
so
need."
he got caught.
I think so. Yes, that's my understanding.
Okay.
Again, it's been a long time since I read this, so if anyone
Yeah.
point out in the comments if that's wrong, that's fine.
All right, so Lan and a couple other warders are going to be tasked with scouting the area
Yeah,
once they head in there, and they're not in like the center of Shadow Logoth or anything. They're like in a hillside adjacent to the city.
but it's
Uh,
still the AOE effect of this is going to be huge.
oh yeah, it's
It's
gigantic. So it completely destroys the city pretty much. But
yeah,
um,
because Rand hasn't picked this place by accident, has he?
oh no, he knows this place is just evil.
Yeah,
so so yeah, so on the hillside, oh yeah, I forgot. Nynaeve has to relinquish her, I guess her. She has like a special bracelet with rings that are attached
yeah.
by chains, and
It's an
she,
Angreal.
yeah, Nigel, she gives it up because she's not going to be able to use that during her phase of the cleansing. So she gives it to Olivia, who's the strongest person there, basically.
But also, like, when you're wielding the Choden Kal, like, what's the point of keeping your backup knife when you're going to be fighting with, like, a nuke? You know,
Yeah.
I mean, the Angreals are powerful, but the Choden Kal is so much more powerful than anything else in the series. It's just like her keeping a hold of that when she's wielding the Choden Kal would just be pointless.
Yeah,
Utterly.
one of the crazy things is like how long it actually takes to cleanse the taint. It's
Yeah.
not something that happens in a snap. It's like a marathon
Yeah.
um, of wielding the power, which truly shows how robust both Rand and Nynaeve are when it comes to their abilities to hold the one power.
They're the top of the top, aren't they? I mean, they're at this point. I think we only have met one female channeler who's stronger than Nynaeve in the entire world, and we've not met a male channeler stronger than Rand. And like that's the level that they're at. And we know that Angreal massively increase your power. Sangreal far more so. And these are the greatest. So,
Mhm.
and that's why they shouldn't be used because there is no flaw in them. There is no cap. There is no protection. They're just like they're the concept of like the Tower of Babel, the ability to
Mhm.
take on God Himself, and like
Mhm.
that is the threat of the Choden Call is that it tempts you to think that you can do things that maybe mortal men and women shouldn't do, and
Yeah.
that's why he gave away the keys before. You know, he put them in Nynaeve's possession and said like, keep them away from me till the right time.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's
So
pretty
yeah,
cool.
we're gonna spend quite a bit of time going over this chapter. The
This is
notes
an amazing
are quite
chapter.
dense.
Yeah.
Rand and Nynaeve start their thing. They sit down on the hill, and here's one thing that's in the notes. I'm not sure what this means, but it says that as Rand sees the sighting, he sees the image of a face that is almost familiar. Hmm.
I
I,
think that's Luz Theron, right?
I guess so. Maybe Luz Theron is helping him with this task as well.
Yeah, I that's exactly what I think. I think this is like he uses that image is Luz Theron coming to him and Luz Theron's abilities with the one power being applied in this incredible influence. That's the only thing I can think of that would make
Right.
sense.
So in this interaction, both Nynaeve and Rand are linked together. I believe Rand is in the dominant position, so he's
Yeah.
taking control
She
of Nynaeve's
has to
power, right?
start it though. Like a man can't start a link. So she starts the link, but she turns
Mhm.
control over to Rand willingly.
All right, so in this instance, this gives Rand the power to wield both Saidin and
Yes,
Sadar, is that correct?
correct. And remember, one of Robert Jordan's whole points is that the men can do amazing things, the women can do amazing things, but the true power is really meant to be used yin and yang. And so it isn't just additive, it's cumulatively empowering. Like so if Nynaeve is one and Rand is one, it's one add one equals three, not one add one equals two. And so
Mm,
that's the thing here is that we've got the two basically most powerful channels we have access to using the biggest guns in the game. And because men and women, they're even more enhanced. And Rand is controlling the entire thing because that's how circles work.
all right, so from what I understand of the process that's happening is that Rand is using Sidar, which is the
Yes,
female half, as a
filter.
filter. So
Yes,
he's passing Saidin through Sidar, and
yes.
whatever remains of the taint is being like stored in
Shadow,
Shadar
shadow
Logoth.
Yeah, that's like the bin. He's using Shadow Logoth as the bin. So basically, he's using Sidar to do only one thing, which is like all of the Sidar that is being used is just to sort of filter the taint. That's it. All he's
Okay,
doing,
so
all he's doing with Sidene is even less. All he's doing with Sidene is pulling it through. He's just literally just channeling raw Sidene, not doing anything with it, not weaving it into anything, just literally yanking it through. And the implication is that he pulls the whole thing through, all of it that
mm,
exists is channeled by him through this sieve, and then everything that's left goes out the other side is pure because all the crap is caught by Sidar and dumped in Shadar Logoth.
all right. So from another thing I understand is that this process takes the entire day, and
Yeah,
then as a result of the process, a giant black dome um, is created that is basically the taint, right?
yeah, and it just wrecks Shadar Logoth.
Okay, so
Empty and removed.
all right, so that's not else that's going on here. Let's go into some of these alternate
Yeah,
POVs here. So,
all this is while
oh,
they're channeling. So they're now channeling in the background, pretty much helpless because that's all they're
mhm,
doing.
that's all they can do. They have to focus all their intention into the task.
Yeah,
Basically, Rand is not cognizant as what's happening in the outside world. I think he's
yeah.
basically doing the flame in the void,
So if someone could
and
walk up to him with a knife, they'd just stab him and he'd die.
yeah, he's not even aware of what's going on. I think Nynaeve is a bit more aware. It's just that this is taking so much of a physical toll on her. She
Yeah,
can't do anything but concentrate.
yeah.
And I think
And
she
she
even communicates with people saying, this is like too much, it's more than I can bear.
correct.
Um,
And she can't channel because he's got all her channeling. He's using her channeling. So she
yeah,
has
she's just a conduit,
yeah.
that's it's coming through her.
Yeah.
So, Elza, first POV
Let's do
here.
it.
Um, so Elza is
She's the super loyal, used to be evil, well, is evil.
she
Like
is
one of the
evil.
only
She's conflicted. We
Yeah.
can say that. So Elza, um, they go off in little fire teams.
Yeah, I love this.
Elsa's fire team is with Jahar. I think she has probably the strongest fire team because
Yeah,
Jahar
it
is in
is.
possession of Kalendor.
Yeah, there's no contest. There's no contest. And like But as soon as someone has Calendar, they're bigger than the entire every other team. But like it's just amazing that Marie's and her link Jahar and Calendar, so they're like the biggest gun that could possibly be had outside the Choden Kal, right?
Yeah, yeah. So they would be the most powerful force
Yes,
outside of the Chosen Call. I guess the second most powerful would be whoever Olivia is teamed up with.
correct. Because she's
Um,
so powerful.
so who is she? She's linked up with Jahar and Maurice,
Yeah,
another Aes Sedai.
yeah. Who is
Um,
Aes Sedai? Yeah,
yeah, another of the fire teams is Flynn, Coriel, and Serene.
yeah.
Linked with Dahmer. Another fire team is Nasoon, Beldine,
Diane.
and Digon, who's linked with Evan, who's the young,
Oh,
and Varen is also there as well. So they have more people, but they got to compensate since they're not as powerful as the other teams. They have to throw more people together. Um, and the other team is Kamira, Shalon, and Olivia. They're probably outside of Jarhar, who has Kalendar, would be the second most powerful fire team here. So yeah, they move off in different directions, anticipating any threats that are they expect to come. They know that whatever they're doing here is basically detectable by any channeler in the world.
yeah. So
It's like a
like
giant smoke signal.
absolutely. So Rand has shocked the Dark One. The Dark One wasn't ready for this, but now he's doing it. It's incredibly obvious. And so, like, that's why Rand got everyone together, everyone he could trust, because he knows he's going to need defending.
Yeah, because we even get some POVs for like some non-channelers here. Just one of the interesting here is I think it's like a farmer traveling through Carrion, um, who's near like the actual statue,
Yep.
and he sees that the globe that the statue is holding
Actually
is brighter
ignites.
than the sun.
Yeah.
And this freaks him out, and he just runs. He guns it,
Oof.
and I think he downs like an entire an entire like bottle of brandy. And we have
That's
someone.
better than the reaction that the Athenmere have when they see their version go up.
Yeah, so on Tremalking, where the other statue is located, she's also sees the same thing happening with this statue. Her reaction is the exact opposite. She's happy and smiling. Apparently, this must be part of their prophecy.
Yeah, it is. And it suggests that the time of illusion is at an end. And what we'll find out next book is that because it's the end of the world of illusion, they all just kill themselves.
Everyone on Tremalking does?
Yeah,
I did not know that. That's
yeah.
nuts.
That in the next book, that's why when the news comes through that they've done this mass suicide, that like the mistress of the ships is gutted because they've just like it's not the actual sea folk because the sea folk stay on the ships, but they have
Uh-huh.
people on Jamaican who are like their landlubber people who do a
Uh-huh.
lot of their stuff, and these people in their religion their prophecies were like that this moment would indicate the end of the time of illusion, and they interpreted that as meaning the end of life, and so time to kill yourself and rejoin the great weave, and so they all just do in a big mass suicide. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right. So next we get a POV from Sindane, aka Lanfear,
Oh
like the
yeah.
reincarnated Lanfear. Her first reaction, she definitely knows that it's the Chosen Call being used.
Yeah.
And her first reaction is anger because she knows that the female key is being accessed.
Yeah.
And she assumes that whoever is using the female key is important to Rand in some type of romantic sense.
Yeah. Well, and also remember what her plan was. Like her,
Oh yeah,
she
her
was,
plan was to use the Chosen Call to defeat the Dark One.
yeah, she's like, if you teamed up with me, Luz Theron, well, Rand it does actually doesn't care, does she? They're all one and the same to her. She's like, if you teamed up with me, we could have used these, toppled the Dark One, and we could have made the world whatever we want it to be. That's her. That's her whole shtick, right?
Hmm.
And he refused to use it with her, and here he is using it with some other punk woman, and you know how jealous she is.
Hmm.
So that's
So
why
I
she's like,
believe,
let's kill.
yeah, I believe she's forced to go to Shadow Lorgoth by
Oh, I think
Moradin.
yeah, but she would have gone anyway, I'm pretty sure. But yeah, it mentions that Moradin has her Corsuvra, doesn't he?
Yeah, so he kind of
And,
forces her to go over there, and she goes. She goes.
well, everyone was called, all of them. I think they called all the Forsaken, just some of them don't go because in the later book they're like, hey, yeah, you didn't turn up to the big fight, to some of the ones who didn't show. So
Oh, there are definitely some that showed up and didn't do jack.
yeah, but they showed up at
uh,
least.
yeah, they showed up, but they're like, nobody's gonna know if I did anything or not, so I'm just gonna sit here. Um, the next thing that happens is we get a POV from Cadswain. So Cadswain's task is to create a shield, a barrier,
Mm,
um, to protect Rand and the crew. So she's using her Angriel in to aid in this.
yeah, but
And
she would be
also
second.
her other task is to locate male channelers.
Mm,
So some of these fire teams have a person. I think actually there's a fire team surrounding Cadswain, if I'm not mistaken.
I
But
think there's a bunch
she,
of them all around. Like there's just tons.
yeah. So Cadswain, while she's maintaining the shield, she's also pointing out targets
Yeah, that's
for the Aes
where it
Sedai
came
to
from.
attack.
Yeah,
So
wherever
I
it comes
know,
from,
and
she
go
sends
ahead.
them. Just like she's the command position, right? So they attack. She's like, boom, blocked it. It came from there. They blow it up. Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, so she's able to block and pinpoint like where the channeling is coming
yeah.
from.
Because her Turin Grail
Uh,
does it for her.
right.
It doesn't
Um,
require her to channel.
yeah, it looks like the ones tasked with counterattack in this fashion are the Jahar group, and that's the group of
The
Kalendor.
big
So
gun.
basically, what happens is wherever Cadswain points, like a giant spout of fire just kind of appears there.
Yeah. Boom.
Um, let's see. So we know that Jahar isn't the one that's actually doing. He's he's providing the source, but it's Elza is the one that's actually creating the weaves.
And we actually know that's vital, right? Because of the flaw in Kalendor.
Of right, right.
Because if the man is in control, like it would kill him, like send him insane. So, like the key thing about Kalendor is it's incredibly powerful, but a woman must control the flows, and it's like a safety net that this man has the great power, but it can only ever be wielded actually by a woman.
Hmm.
So interesting, but
Uh,
yeah,
yeah. So we get into
is
I
this
think
close?
during yeah last scene is like Cadswain senses something from Shadow Logoth, but it doesn't. It kind
Yeah,
of cuts over to Rand really quick, and basically Rand, it's just a POV from Rand of him struggling um, with the flows and wondering how long it's actually going to take. It's nothing too great. Next POV though, we get Demon Dread.
hey, hey.
Demon Dread, I believe, lands in Shadow Logoth proper.
Yeah, that's where he's attacking from, and that's one of the reasons it suggests that he's the one who set that bolt of lightning, right? Because she points at Shadow Logoth, and then that's where they send the fire that he then runs away from.
Interesting enough, Demandred actually figured out what Rand was trying to do.
Yeah.
So Demandred knows that Rand is trying to claim the taint from the source.
Mm.
So while Demandred is in the city, he basically describes what he's saying. Basically, seems like this giant shadow consuming the city. He
Yeah.
finds this is probably a dangerous place to be because fire explosions start approaching him. So
Raining down
he,
here.
yeah, he gets out of there pretty quickly. But then as he arrives, he sees um, that he's being tracked again to where he arrived to. Um, so he puts two and two together and he believes that somebody has a way to track the mail channelers.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
that's Kadsoon, right?
hmm So he figures out that there's probably a terangrial that they're using to track his channeling.
Exactly.
So he actually, where he ended up, it was near one of the fire teams, and he describes the fire team as two women and an old man. So we know this is Dahmer and his fire
Yeah.
team. In this fire team, Dahmer is actually the one controlling the waves, so he starts attacking Demon
Mandred.
Dread right away. Instead of weird thing though, instead of engaging them, he actually runs away.
But that makes
Um,
complete sense because remember, circles are way better than individuals. So Dahmer fighting with these two Aes Sedai powering him, even though Demandred is more powerful than him, without an Angreal or a Sangreal, he's right to run. Like
yeah, he would be outclassed.
correct.
Um, so he does run, and he's like, "Well, this guy isn't my objective.
Yeah,
He really wants to get to Rand. That's his objective."
yeah,
So yeah, we get another POV switch. We get Sindane, aka Lanfear,
yeah.
uh,
Just obsessed with
and she is really eager. She really wants to get to Rand first, and she definitely wants to kill him.
yeah,
um, and we get to switch to Asengar, aka Agenor, right?
yeah. And
AKA
this is the
um,
only time where this is the scene in which Osengar was confirmed to be Agenor.
okay. Agenor, aka what's his freaking Ashaman persona?
Oh,
Um,
I want to say Deshiva, the one who was pretending to
Shiva.
be.
There you go.
He's like, oh,
So yeah,
don't worry about me.
yeah. So he shows up, um, and he actually doesn't really want to be there.
No, that's not what he
But
does.
if he's not there, Moradin would kill him. So that's why he showed up. Um, but he starts to concoct something in his mind of believing that if he was the one to kill, I think he concocts something saying that what was it? Because he was like being ambitious in this moment and trying to take this moment to rise in ranks. And he said, I think he has the idea that if he's the one that um, kills Rand, that he would be made like an ableist or something like that. Like he uses this, even though he doesn't want to be there, he finds the opportunity to rise in rank ahead of him. So he tries to use that as a motive to stay there and try to actually kill Rand or stop what they're doing. Um, so we go into Varen. Varen, I forgot which group she's in with, but Varen is on the lookout. She's scanning the forest, and she sees a woman there in a gown that just kind of looks like a warder cloak. Um, she figures that it's a Forsaken, and Varen tries to shield her. The woman is too strong, and she starts to attack the circle. I think this is Grandal, or is that who it is that
I
she
think
fights?
I think it must be Grendel. I think if it was Sindane, she might be able to. She might have been able to shield her because Sindane's so much weaker right now. But it could be
Mm-hmm.
Moghedian. But I think it must be Grendel. But I'm not sure from memory. My memory is not good enough.
All
But
right, so we get another POV
she
from
must be she
Evan.
must be a Forsaken because she's super powerful.
Well, yeah, it's a Forsaken. I just not entirely sure which one.
Yeah, me neither.
Um, so we get another POV from Hopwell, and they find a woman in the woods. And the woman is holding Saidin, so this must be Asengar then, right?
It definitely is us.
Arengar, I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah, and so the one who was Balthana, and the thing here that's interesting is this shows one of the problems of a circle because Eben notices the woman and he's the only one who knows that they're in danger because he recognizes the weeds because it's Sadine, and so he
Mm-hmm.
tries to stop her, but he can't do anything with his power because he isn't controlling the circle. So he has to just literally run at him with a knife, which is just like suicide. Yeah.
Right. Um, yeah, so that, yeah, you basically explained what was happening there.
But it's cool
We,
because like he saves them by doing that, right?
yeah, but he also sacrifices himself
He does. He does.
by doing that. So he is a true hero.
Yeah, and like that's one of the cool things about this chapter. It's one of the reasons it's like one of my favorite chapters in all of the series. Is like these different fire teams are also different, right? It's showing that like Damer Flynn with a circle is stronger than Demandred. It's showing the weaknesses of a circle and the strengths of a circle. It's showing how you can use Terrangrael and Angrael and mix them together to create more powerful. And I think it's probably, I mean, outside the last battle itself, it's probably the best example of a blended use of the one power in a combat situation. Just like when have we seen so many of the Forsaken in one place? We just haven't.
Never. We have not.
And so it's just
This is,
amazing to see that like the Dark One's just chucking everything at this, trying to stop it. And the different teams are fighting back, and we're seeing what could be done if the Aes Sedai and the Ashraman truly work together. If people from the Borderlands and the Athenmere all combine their abilities, and like we see people like young Eben, just like he is so loyal now that he is prepared to die to save the circle. Even though the circle has a weakness in that he can't react because he isn't able to react. And he could easily have just said, well, I can't do anything. But he just knows I have to move straight away. They won't expect it. They won't know what's going on here. So he does, saves their lives, and dies nobly. Brilliant. Great writing by Jordan.
mhm.
Mm,
So next we got Sindane POV.
yeah.
Sindane sees a woman standing in the woods, and I guess she doesn't know exactly who she is, but suspects she might be a wilder.
Yeah.
So she fires a fire attack at her.
Yeah.
But as the attack reaches the target, it kind of just
Falls
fizzles
apart.
apart. And Sindane believes that it's a terangrial that's stopping Louise. But then she kind of looks closer and sees that this woman is stronger than before the Aelfin and Eelfin held her. So this is a really interesting tidbit if you're the first time you've read this,
Correct.
because this shows that this would get a lot of gears spinning. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, because it establishes for sure and without doubt that this is Lanfear. It also confirms that when she went through the gateway, she didn't just die, she was held. That suggests things about Moiraine that we
Right.
could now start thinking about. And you better believe that the theory side of the fandom exploded after this book, and partially because of this line.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So lots of confirmations.
Yeah.
Confirmations that Olivia is powerful as hell.
Yeah.
Even more powerful
More
than
powerful than
when
anyone else we've met.
Lanfear.
The most powerful woman.
Yeah, so Lanfear was before Olivia came along. Lanfear was the strongest,
Yeah.
and this is like a really big. It's basically showing us how powerful Olivia actually is.
Correct.
So they get into a fight. Her determination is that she wants to kill Luz Theron. She never refers to him as Rand. So she wants to kill him as a lover spurns type of thing.
Yes.
But Gideon, she is just kind of chilling on a hilltop, not too close. He can feel that she's being pushed by Moradin,
Yes.
and she's kind of describing like the big dome that's covering Shadow Logoth, and she wants nothing to do with that at all. She's basically
She's the
and
spider. She
yeah,
watches. She isn't brave enough to refuse, but she doesn't really involve herself. And she confirms that Grendel and Zendane are there, and we know that Arengar and Ossengar are there, and we know that Demandred is there. And like that is almost all of the currently alive Forsaken.
yeah. So because I remember when I read this, and I was confused as I thought possibly that Samael was there. I was
Mm,
like, because so you have to really figure out who's there.
you do.
They don't really spell it out for you completely. Some of them are easy, like of course O'Gideon was easy.
Mm,
Um, Zendane was easy. But we also see that there are some encounters that some of the fire teams make that
yeah.
we don't know if there's a POV for those encounters.
No. And like Ossengar and Arangar's situation is just a weird one, right? So that they're trickier to work out than some.
Right. So yeah, she's just basically observing. She couldn't give a care about what the outcome of this is going to be. She just wants to watch. But actually, one of her wishes is to see Grandal or Sindane die, because this eliminates some competition for her.
Yeah. And they just
Uh,
can't help it, can they? The Forsaken, even when they're against the big enemy, they're still trying to get one up on each other, which is why the Dark will
mhm.
always lose.
um, so we get a Rand POV.
Yeah.
It just says he's pretty sure that both he and Liz Theron are screaming.
Yeah, that's just it's ongoing is the point. Yeah.
Yeah, imagine screaming for an entire day. That's nuts. Um,
I kind of
Catswain.
I kind of think of it as like the roar of the waves more than like an actual scream from his mouth. But I guess yeah, it could be that both or but like just
Well, he's unsure because the roar of like what's happening is louder
just it's
than
in his
Rand.
ears, it's in his body, like you know, like when an airplane takes off, and you're just like, you almost feel the sound as well as hear it. Like, that's how I imagine it anyway.
Okay. So we have next is Kat Swain. She's trying to get a beat on how Rand's doing by asking Min, see
Yeah.
how he's doing through the bond, and she's
What do
kind
you
of hitting.
expect?
Yeah, what are you
He's
gonna expect,
moving
really?
the entirety of one half of the power through the other half of the power on his own. Damn it! Yeah, he's pretty full up right now, Katsune. Let's not mess with him.
Yeah, so she like Min isn't entirely sure, but she believes he's like going through some crazy agony. Cat Swain looks over Rand and Nynaeve. Nynaeve looks like she's struggling, so Cat Swain proceeds to heal her or to refresh her. So we go into Awesome Door, aka the Shiva, right?
Yeah, Toshiba, the supposedly insane.
That's probably one of the funniest ones. It's this one. I don't know. This isn't. Well, anyway, he sees. Oh,
You're,
this is where he gets his ambition. So he
yeah,
sees Narishma on a hill holding Kalendor, and he also sees Rand, and he's like, "Oh, if I can kill Rand and get Kalendor, I'll for sure be the nameless." That's kind of his motivation for going forward in this. And then at that point, he starts to weave Bellfire. That's when we get a quick switch to Elsa.
and this
Right
is
now,
the
Elsa
moment.
is super conflicted because she's fighting the Chosen. So we're like, oh shit. I don't think before this we even knew that Elsa was
No, we
black
knew that she was. We knew that she was involved with the sisters who kidnapped Rand. But this is the moment she is revealed as black because she uses the word chosen, and only the black
and Great
Ajahn
Lord.
call the Forsaken the chosen. No one else does that. If you say chosen and Great Lord, you are definitely bad guy. I mean, you're sworn in. You're a dark friend. And but one of the things that's interesting is, again, correct me if I'm misremembering this, but like
Hmm.
she sees what Ostengar's about to do, but she doesn't realize he's one of the Forsaken, even though she knows Forsaken are here. She just
Hmm.
thinks he's like one of the bad Ashermen, and
Right.
she just it's like, oh, he's like trying to do like uh, like attack Rand, and so she just
Hmm.
blows him the heck up, and I just think that is awesome, and because she doesn't even realize that she's taking out one of the chosen, it's awesome.
Yes. She basically vaporizes a mountaintop that he's on. Like she's not using Bellfire, she's just using a really super powerful weave that has almost like the same effects.
Yeah, well, she has. Well, it's not the same effect because it isn't like ripping it out of the pattern,
Well, yeah, it doesn't have like the time reversal,
but it's doing the
type of effect.
destruction. It's absolute destruction. Yeah,
Yeah, like the top part of that mountain that he was on
it's
is
gone.
gone. It's no longer there.
And him with it. And so that is the
Right.
depth of him in just in that one paragraph. Just like, I'm going to kill Rand and win, and I'm going to get Kalendor. And it's like, nope, the people who are holding Kalendor just killed you, and they didn't even realize who
Right.
you were. They just thought crazy action, man.
All right. So we get Gideon, who's still observing the battle,
Yeah,
and she isn't feeling any more like violent jumps in the power, just the constant of the shooting call. So at this point, she believes the battle is over.
yeah, and it is like the fire teams have like driven off the like. We know that like Demandreds had to retreat. We know that like Sindane got shocked because she came up against someone stronger than her. We know that like Osengar has been vaporized. It sounds like Arengar turned up and did jack all, apart from kill Ebb and Hotwell. And so it's just like, this is not working out.
Yeah, so we get the destruction of the dome. She's the one that describes it from her point of view.
Yeah.
So it kind of implodes on itself and creates like a huge like wind blast.
Yeah.
That picks her up off of her feet. And
that's Shudder Logoth's song, right? That's the death of Shudder Logoth.
Yeah. But she believes if she survives whatever's going on, she'll never be afraid. Because she's the spider. She doesn't get involved in stuff. Let's see. Next POV. Rand. Yeah, still. Oh no, that's not Rand. I'm sorry. Cadswain.
Yeah, because Rand's like unconscious at this point, right?
So Cadswain. Everything's over. The female access key is destroyed.
Yeah.
And the male access key she was able to procure, and she put it in her saddlebags with Kalendor.
Yeah, just the most powerful things in the world. I'll just have those both on my possession. Cadswain, you boss.
There's a giant crater where Shadow Logoth used to be. And Lan returns. It's like, what was Lan doing this whole time?
I bet
he didn't have too big a role. I think he was just kind of had him have to do something.
Yeah, but the thing is, the fight is very one power based, right? Like hugely
right.
so. You got to remember that Lan, even with all his swordsmanship, is really an ant in this kind of fight. And so, I wouldn't be surprised if when Robert Jordan wrote this, if there was like 10 other sections. This has the feeling of something that got very edited. I bet there's huge extra sections of writing that all got deleted in order to make it manageable. But that's definitely how it reads, as if how it jumps between points of view. I would be utterly gobsmacked if there isn't a deleted scene from Lan somewhere. I bet there is. And he just went, no, actually, this is about the channelers. Why have I done this? Just because Lan's my favorite character or whatever. He took it out. That's what I think. That's what I think.
Yeah, so Lan comes back, sees that Nynaeve and Rand are unconscious. Lan is worried, but Cadswain lets him know that they need to recover on their own. And we kind of go after the aftermath, who survived, who got killed. So Eben did not survive. He was killed. Chimera, who was a really loyal Aes Sedai to Cadswain, I believe.
Yeah, she was one of her little coterie.
I think Chimera was the first one to try to heal Rand's wound from Padan Fain.
Yeah.
When he went and battled Padan Fain in the rebel encampment. She didn't survive. And one of the Aes Sedai, no, it's not an Aes Sedai. Serene, I think that's the Aes Sedai. She's in shock. Dahmer performs healing on those who need it. I think Olivia got injured pretty badly. I think her arm got burnt really horrifically. Jahar mentions that he can feel that Sidene is clean. And Cadswain is really just relieved. But now she feels that because of what she did today, that he has she has Rand's trust now, and now she has to make sure to keep it.
But like now that she's seen what Rand's done, like this is like proof beyond all proof that this is the guy, right? That this is the hope of of the world, and like she is never going to leave his side again if she can possibly help it. She's like, this is the one I have to save. This is the one I have to make sure makes it. And obviously, we have people like Olivia who are with Rand for like the opportunity to wreak vengeance. Like, just give me a chance to blow up Soldom. We've got people with Nynaeve who are with Land for love, right? Like Min and Elaine and Nynaeve and like the Egwene. These are people who are loyal to him as the person, Rand. And like Elsa, who's with Rand, like because you need to get to the last battle so the Dark One can kill you. Like I need to achieve his prophecies by allowing you to get there and make sure none of the other idiots get in the way so you can die in the right place at the right time. And then we can see that Verin has her own reasons. And now we see Cadsuane's. That Cadsuane is a kingmaker. She doesn't trust the fate of the world to anyone else. And she knows that Rand is the fate of the world. And she's like, I am attaching myself to you until this is done. You go neither to the right nor to the left nor without me. And she has every reason to believe that's a good choice because she, in this book, especially in these final chapters, has proven that she is one of the greatest assets Rand has. Yeah.
Yeah. So right now, I'm looking through the Wheel of Time companion because I remember here it because I usually whenever a character dies, I'll look them up in the companion just to kind of go over like what they did up until that point of their death. Because when the character dies, they're not doing anything else in the story.
Well, except when they are. This is Robert Jordan after all.
Well, I know Eben is dead for sure.
Yeah, and the people who are dead usually are dead. It's only Forsaken who tend to come back.
Right. Except when they're not Balefired. But does the Shiva come back or Arengar?
No, I think he's dead. I think maybe his failure means that he doesn't bring him back. He doesn't come back during the series anyway.
Oh, okay. So Eben, he was killed by Arengar in that encounter.
He was.
Veldine was injured.
Yeah.
But yeah, Arengar killed Eben. But yeah, let me see who killed Chimera. I want to find that out right now.
I don't know if it tells us.
Well, Chimera fought. Did Chimera fight the one who had the cloak that was changing colors, or the dress that was changing colors?
Yeah, and you know what? If it's a dress that's changing colors, could that have been Masana? Or it could have been Grendel.
I don't want. It could be one or the other. I don't know.
Because Masana loves the Mask of Mirrors. But yeah. Maybe it will tell us if we look it up in the wiki. I don't know for sure.
I know this companion says who killed her because I looked it up before. The Wheel of Time companion.
Yeah, it says
killed. What's that?
I think it says Grendel.
Chimera.
They encountered Grendel and Chimera was killed driving her off.
Okay, so Chimera was killed by Grendel.
Confirmed.
And I guess Olivia was injured by Lanfear /
Sindane. Yeah, we know that he came across her, so that would make sense. And we know that Lanfear shot like weaves that she thought would completely destroy her.
So we never got a POV. So we got to assume that Grendel was the one with the color changing dress.
Yeah, it looks like it because of what is said in the wiki and in the companion.
So the Forsaken who were not there were What's it called? The crazy torturous one. What's her name? Samiraj wasn't there.
Yeah, and remember,
Uh,
Samiraj is one of the most powerful. She's the one who's considered to be on the same level as Lanfear.
yeah, Samiraj was absent, and so was who was the one that's in the tower a lot?
Misana,
Asana. She wasn't there. Doesn't look like she was there.
but it looks like all the
Um,
rest were.
I get it because doesn't have direct control over those two.
No, he does not. But he doesn't have direct control over Demandred. But Demandred
No,
runs.
but he has his other motives. But he
Agreed.
is in direct control over Sindane and Gideon.
He does, and it's clear in both of their POVs that he pushed them to turn up
Okay.
because
Okay.
he mentions the Corsuva.
Right. All right. So not all the Forsaken were there, but a
No,
significant gathering were there.
someone, I can't remember who, but someone gets criticized in a future book for not showing up.
Uh, well, we'll find out who that is
When we read
when
the
we get there.
I think it might be Masana criticized by Grendel, even though Grendel did jack all.
Yeah, I guess the only thing she did, well, Grendel did kill somebody.
Yeah, I guess so. That's true.
Um, she killed Chimera, I guess. So now that we're end of Winter's Heart, what are your thoughts?
Oh, I love this book. I love this book. I know some people consider Winter's Heart to be part of the slog. I do not. I find it fantastic. I think it's really interesting. I love the concept of how it's been this time of great heat, and then they finally work out how to break the drought, and the Dark One's like, okay, have eternal winter. It's just
Mm,
like you can't win against me. I will always win, Lewis Theron. And I love this final. I love the farm adding section. I think it's so clever, so unique, so interesting. I wish that we'd had more farm adding. And I absolutely adore this final chapter. I know some people find it chaotic, but it absolutely speaks to me. These idea of these kill teams all defending Rand. I mean, you said it's like King of the Hill. He's there. The most powerful people, Rand and Nynaeve, taken out for a second, and everyone else gets a chance to shine. I absolutely love
mm.
that. I'm an
Yeah, I
ensemble.
really loved it too.
Mhm. And we finally get to see like all the powers used. We get to see what like Ketsun's paralysis net can like do. We get to see the Choden Kal properly used. We get to see Kalendor properly used. And also like it's hard to explain how I feel about the taint being cleansed. Like he established the taint so well that like I honestly thought the taint was there to stay. Like I the understanding of male channelers was always, yeah, male channelers have to deal with the fact that they're going to go mad because of the taint. That was always a thing. And then just the fact that that was removed, they're just like, wow, that is truly something godlike. I think that's the first godlike action that we see Rand take. That is, it's beyond powerful channeler and is right up there with a
I
godlike.
think they kind of had to, right? Because if you think of it, think of how crippled Rand has been for the past couple books when it came to
Oh,
channeling.
Oh, yeah, it makes sense. What I'm saying is that I was so deep in the culture of the world that I stopped thinking that was possible,
Oh,
and
okay.
and then like I didn't see it coming. I genuinely didn't realize, and obviously totally necessary, and like especially the way that they do it. Right, they're just in farm adding. They get these last two assassins, and they step out, and Rand just like nope, and suddenly he's there, and
Hmm.
and like suddenly this huge plan that he's been clearly plotting for years, but like didn't tell anyone, not even the reader, not even in his own head, admitted what he was planning. And it is clear that like, or no, that's not true. It's not clear, but some people think that the philosopher that the shadow destroy, this is one of the things that he may have been considering with Rand, is the ability to cleanse the taint. Like, not because he understood anything about the power, but the idea of theory. That, well, in theory, if you could get it all to go through a sieve, then in theory you could clean it, because that's how you would do it philosophically. And then Rand makes it a reality here, along with the idea of needing to destroy the seals in order to truly deal with the Dark One. So just some really interesting points, because obviously the Dark One has that man killed for being a thinker, which is very interesting. And but
Yeah, well, the way it was done makes absolute sense.
yeah, I agree. It's brilliant. It's absolutely a great move by Jordan. I bet this is one of the things that he had thought of, like right back in the early books 1, 2, and 3. I think he probably didn't know maybe exactly how he was going to do it, but he's like, the way I'm going to deal with this is they'll use a sieve thing. And he saw that and he's like, yeah, I need to make that happen at some point. Because we know he had copious notes.
Right. So, yeah, I remember when I was reading this last chapter, it's usually when I'm reading, I read before bed, and I typically like nod off and fall asleep during my reading. When I got to that chapter, I think I was up until like 3 in the morning until I finished it.
I'm reading this. It's amazing.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Like, I do notice that Jordan does tend to speed things up really quickly in the last few chapters. Like, I even noticed this in his older book. Did you ever read Warrior of the Altai?
I did not.
What? How can you have not read that yet?
Warrior of the Old Tide?
Warrior of the Altai. It's one of his books.
No, I have not.
It was published like a couple years ago, posthumously, whatever the damn word is, post death. Like Harriet published it.
Ah, cool.
It's basically his first book that was never published.
Cool.
I didn't know you didn't know about this book, but it has some backbone of what was used, what some of the concept in this first book made its way into the world of the Wheel of Time.
And I think that happens with a lot of authors. Like if you look at like Brandon Sanderson, he wrote some books prior to being published, and in there he would describe them as not good enough to be published, but a lot of the content and the ideas expressed in those books did make it through to his published work. So I think that makes complete sense to me.
Yeah, because I know there was a mountain range in this other book called The Backbone of the World.
Like the spine of the world, yeah.
But
And the
yeah,
spine of
the
the world is much fun.
right, the last chapters are extremely furious. It's like,
yeah, agreed.
that whole thing happened in one chapter. Like the whole taint cleansing. Like there was no build up to it. It was just like, bam,
No.
I'm gonna cleanse the taint right now. I was like, what? Let's go to Shadar Logoth. And then you have this huge battle involving multiple points of view and multiple Forsaken, and characters get killed. And we get to see some interesting, like hard magic systems, and we get to see how the taint is cleansed, and it's done in a very clever way. So I was like really, really impressed with that last chapter. And it's like when you read that, you just don't expect it. Because there have been some dud endings from some of these books. I think one of the dud endings I kind of consider a dud ending was the battle with Samael in Shadar Logoth.
You didn't think that was very good?
No, I thought that was like the most dud endings of the books up until this point, in my opinion.
Even with the crossing of the streams?
Yeah, even with that, I was like, Because it seemed the way that Samael was portrayed to have died in that was
Yeah.
anticlimactic.
Okay.
That's why I was like, yeah, this is a little bit of an anticlimactic
It's
ending,
not the
and a lot of
same
his.
as
Go
6 or
ahead.
9 where they're just like Do My Wells is just what, and like what with the Jordan Call is just so amazing. They make final chapters like that look pale in comparison.
Well, that's probably why, because I think that directly follows that one. So
Yeah,
it's
it's
like,
just no,
yeah,
it doesn't compete.
right. It's like trying to follow like an awesome comedian. It's just really difficult to do. Um, but as far as up until this point, where would you rate this book in the 9 that we've read?
This is my favorite. I know a lot of people prefer the Shadow Rising or Lord of Chaos, which I both rate very highly, but this is my favorite of the first 9. There is a possibility that Towers of Midnight might top it overall. Actually, I really like The Gathering Storm as well. They're both in my top. I think those are the other 2 that compete with this one for my top. Um, but I just it's about this chapter. I've got to admit it. It isn't really about the book Winter's Heart. I do like the book, but this chapter is just so amazing. I absolutely love it, and I love the way that it's so chaotic. It feels so frenetic. I just remember the experience of reading it and just being like, they they cleanse the taint. They
Mm,
actually cleanse the bloody taint. And
mm,
it revolutionized what was going to happen. I'm just like, I cannot wait for the next book to see what they do with
right.
it. And then in the next book, of course, they spend most of it talking about people reacting to this event. But like, but even that was super cool. Like the very fact that it just this event's so impactful that it just has waves and waves of impact across the world. It's just I adore it. I really do.
So wow, you're putting this at number 1 so far.
No, oh, so far for sure. I like it better than its 2 biggest competitors, which for me are Lord of Chaos and The Shadow Rising. But I prefer it to both those books.
Okay.
And just
Well,
to be clear, I prefer this scene, like what with the Choden Carl. I even prefer this to the Battle of Dumai Wells. Like to me, this is the greatest of all the endings.
mm, wow.
I love it. I love this scene.
Yeah, I'd have to say that yeah, Shadow Rising is still my favorite.
Yeah.
Um, and the Shadow Rising, like, it's not the actual ending of the book that's my favorite part of the Shadow Rising. It's the battle at Two Rivers, which is not the ending. 'Cause the
No.
ending is Rand battling Asmodean.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, my favorite scene is the attack on the Two Rivers. I would say I would still put Demise Wells in book 6 above this
I
one.
know you would, dude. I know you would.
But I'll say this will pretty much land a clean third. I would say just for that scene alone.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Um, and there are a couple other scenes in this book that are pretty good. But yeah, that
Yeah.
last part of the book is quite good. And yeah, I put this at third among the 9 that we've read so far, or we've covered so far.
And it's interesting that you also put 4 and 6 as your other very high books, and like I do. And I mean, all the books have qualities, and obviously we're big fans. But it's interesting that there is such consensus about the strongest entries in the series.
Yeah, and this is just as a reading so far because it seems like when I read it the first time, I would have given you a different order. It's the second reading that I'm actually finding that I am changing this order a bit.
Mm.
Because if I was thinking back during first reading, Winter's Heart would probably have ranked lower.
Yeah,
I Yeah, I think a second reading with more context about what's going on in the last chapter. Because the first time I read Winter's Heart, I found the last chapter somewhat confusing. And I didn't quite understand what was going on. I feel I have a better grasp of what's going on here, and it makes it much more interesting. And much more, I see that it's a lot more clever than I initially experienced. To me, it was just a confusing mess. But when I went back to it, it's like, oh, I see. Oh, that's really clever. Oh, it's like these books have to be reread at least once.
Yeah. I remember reading that chapter and like reading it again. like especially when some of the stuff was going off. And like the things as well, like he's so cool, Jordan, in like he says he doesn't say things right out. Like he doesn't actually tell you sometimes whose point of view you're in. You just gotta figure it out. We love that. I'll speak for myself, but I can tell you that it's very popular in the fandom that he didn't just say things. You had to like piece it together and figure out what he meant. And like we got some super juicy reveals in that last chapter. Like finding out that Elsa was straight up a dark friend and why she wanted Rand to live was just amazing. Seeing Varen there in the background, seeing like what true Asherman and Aes Sedai circles were capable of, having them just whip out like Kalendor and the Chosen Cal after all this time, we're like, frick, let's do this. It was just it was another level. And I think also this is where my fears concerning Ketsun were put to rest. Cadsuane, like I was thinking that maybe Cadsuane was going to be like the
like
false,
an Elida.
yeah, or not like Elida's too obvious a problem girl, like, but like I thought Katsune might be the false mentor, right? The mentor who turns out, because when you get a mentor in these fantasy things, they're typically like a Gandalf character who's going to be really good and then removed, or they're going to be like the mentor that guides you and then you have to kill at the end. Like in something like Captain Marvel, the person who's, or in Raj Al Ghul with Batman in Batman Begins. Like, yep, the mentor is someone that in the end you realize you actually have to use what they've taught you against them. And so because Katsune came into it quite late, I thought, so Moraine's the one they used like the Gandalf, so this must be the other one. And she's not very sympathetic. She treats him like a mum scolding a schoolboy. And as a teenage boy reading it, you dislike Katsune. You're like, freaking punk woman. And like, it's I was definitely thinking Jordan could be totally tricking us here. That's totally his style. She could be like one of the Forsaken, and then of course I think this book categorically shows that, sympathetic or not, she is for the right, and is very, very competent. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was decisive, a decisive chapter for me.
Yeah, she definitely passes the test.
She does.
Yes. But I wonder why so many people, there are like a lot of people that don't like Cadsuane even after this moment.
Yeah, but the thing is, I would say that even after this moment, Cadsuane is not likable. I don't think she is. sympathetic. One of the things that Brandon Sanderson talks about in his writing lectures is the concept that characters they have like these sliders, and the sliders are like sympatheticness, or like how likable the character is, how competent the character is, and how proactive the character is. And it's like you can have an important character be low on one of those scales, but if they're low on all three, the readers will cease to engage. And the thing with Cat Swain is I'd say she's low on likability. I'd say there's a lot about her that is not very likable, but she's so competent, so very, very competent. She's skilled, she's smart, and her decisions almost always work out. And the other thing is she's so freaking proactive. She at least does something about what she believes. She doesn't sit on the sidelines. She tells Rand what she wants him to do, and she engages. And that is easy to get behind because at least she cares about what she thinks. And like that is much, much easier to engage with. I think that's one of the problems of having 13 Forsaken is so many of them appear so very inactive in the books. And that makes them harder to engage with than some villains are. But Katsune is super active and super impactful on the plot when she arrives. Who would have guessed that a character as impactful as her would not even arrive until when does she rock up? Book 7, book 8, something like this, when she finally appears on the scene. And you're just like, and yet she is one of the absolutely pivotal characters in the series. And same with like Tuon, right? Turns up super late in the series. Like she can't be super important, can she? Oh, frick, yeah, she can. And they're like, oh, okay. Jordan, not afraid to twist it up. And I think that's, again, this kind of thing that makes this series like magic to me. And I honestly don't think, Dusty, that we would have seen series like Malazan, Book of the Fallen, and Game of Thrones, Song of Ice and Fire, if we hadn't seen stuff like this. I think Jordan bridged the Lord of the Rings, Dragonlance, Forgotten Realms era, a Conan fantasy, and is the bridge to modern fantasy, where things like those series that I just mentioned and the Grimdark revival can exist. That's my thought anyway. I think he gave this idea of an epic that can span over 10 consecutive, connected, massive books with huge numbers of POVs and integral political characters and such intense magic systems all in one go. And he said, look, this can be a big seller. And he was selling more than like the next 3 or 4 fantasy authors combined in his heyday. Like it was the fantasy series of the era. So it's a big deal.
Yes, Jordan definitely is one of the best that there was.
Yeah.
And he's gone from us far too quickly.
Agreed. But like he did it the way he wanted to, right? He said, I'm going to keep writing till they nail shut my coffin, he said. And that's exactly what he did. So he may have gone down too soon, but he went down his own way on his own terms. And that is something that can be respected. But yeah.
Yeah, I'm still surprised you haven't read the
War of the Atai.
Yeah, I would have expected you as like a Jordan fan to have read it.
Well, yeah. Well, I guess I was really a Wheel of Time fan. I haven't read any of Jordan's other work.
So you haven't read anything that Jordan has written outside of Wheel of Time?
I have not, but I bet I would enjoy it if I did. So I will at some point get around to it. But you know me, man.
I really liked War of the Altai. It was really interesting. It's not Wheel of Time at all.
No.
It's
Nor should
interesting
it
to
be.
see kind of where he started.
But like, if you can't differentiate yourself, if you only have one thing, then are you really a storyteller? You know,
Because I do have some of his other books under a different pen name that have not started yet. Um,
well,
and I have one of his Conan books that I haven't read yet. I will eventually read these things, but I just haven't gotten to it.
but that's the thing, Dusty. Our problem is a very different problem in this day and age. It's not that finding something good to read. It's it's reading all the amazing stuff that's out there, and there's tons. And I'm one of those people who reads and rereads. Instead of buying more books, I just read the books I already have again. And I need to like bit by bit expand my horizons. Anyway,
Oh yeah, I'm definitely a new book reader.
yeah,
The only time I reread something is if I'm doing a podcast about
yeah.
it.
Well, I think I'm rereading Brandon Sanderson's Alcatraz series for like the third time. I've read his Stormlight Archive once through for every time a book's released. So I've read that series 4 times each. You
Well,
know,
you've read it more than I have. I've only read it the one time through.
yeah. Well, that's the point. I'm just expressing that you're far more wide ranging in your reading, and that's a great thing because you take that approach. But anyway, we've been talking for like 3 hours.
Oh shoot, really? Oh wow. Yeah, we're almost on 3 hours there. All right, so I guess we could go ahead and wrap this all up. We're finally gotten to one of your favorite books.
We did.
And
Amazing.
did you have any plugs that you wanted to throw out there or
No,
anything like
just
that?
read The Wheel of Time, people. It's a freaking great read. If you haven't read the whole thing, do. Don't worry if we've spoiled loads of stuff. Just go back. You'll have forgotten half of it before you ever get here. It's a great
Yeah,
series.
there's so much stuff in there. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So many different characters.
And I guess one of the things I could say is if you really love books like this, definitely do consider reading A Song of Ice and Fire or something like that, where Malazan Book of the Fallen. But just be aware they're not Wheel of Time. They're a completely different experience, but they allow an expression of what you will find, which is these overarching huge character arcs with deep world-shaking plots, incredibly high stakes, and complex interweaving of characters, which you will not get in all series because there just isn't the pages and the intensity that requires. But if you're up for something a little bit darker, those are great series to engage with. And they do something a little different from something like Joe Abercrombie, who is a little bit more tight with his book. His book's a bit shorter, a bit more punchy. If you want something with that deep politicking, huge numbers of different POV characters, etc., I would say those people are great places to go.
Right. Very punchy, very cynical, very funny.
Very.
That's
If you want some more hopeful, go Sanderson, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Sanderson's more on hope and trying to. Well, I know Abercrombie is more trying to show the realism of humanity, and Sanderson would be humanity at its finest points,
But the thing
and
is,
trying to attain that.
and well, again, just to throw it out there, I will always challenge people on this because some people are like, well, gritty is real. I'm like, well, gritty is real, but so to an extent is like Brandon, like hope is real. And if I think about the experiences I've had in my life, I've experienced a lot more uh, experiences like Sanderson describes, and I've experienced experiences like Abercrombie's described. Now, maybe if I'd had a nastier life and I'd been born in a harder area, maybe I would have it the other way around. But I think, yeah, it is both of them are fantasy and both of them have levels of realism, just a different kind of realism.
Right.
And you're right that human people can be gits. They can do horrible things to each other, and that's the truth. But also, human beings can come through some absolute deep crap and turn out to be incredibly forgiving and hopeful as well,
Hmm.
which is sometimes really odd. Like people who have genuinely forgiven people for killing their children, and you just think, wow, like I didn't know people like existed who could do that, but they do. People like that do exist, and it's amazing. So yeah, pick your flavor. Fantasy has it all these days. We're spoiled.
Yeah, and I am so widely read in that genre that I do end up reading a lot of stinkers, but that's
Yeah.
just happens. I usually don't recommend them,
No, and
but
don't. Like, why would you? When there isn't enough time to read everything, one of the things you can do as someone who is well read is direct people to the stuff that's worth their time.
yeah, but I like the experience of stinkers. It's just I don't know how to explain it. It's like the same as people who like to watch bad movies intentionally. I'm
Yeah.
one of
Well,
those people.
well, also, if you don't know, how can you know what's good if you've never tasted what's bad? How can you know what a
Right.
really great steak is until you've had like someone who's just hacked off a piece of rubbish meat and you're like, oh, this is not good. Oh, that's why that other meat was really well prepared. I get it now. And yeah, you can't truly understand joy until you've known a bit of despair. And you can't truly know high quality until you've seen some dross.
True. And there's some stuff that I thought was really, really good that
And
because
now your
I,
level's gone up.
yeah, it's gone down a little bit because of other stuff that was above that. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, David Eddings. I really love his stuff, but I bet if I read it again, it's not going to be as good as when I
Yeah.
first read it.
Yeah. Yes, that's true. I've read Eddings since reading stuff like Sanderson and stuff. But one of the things I always tell myself is remember, these people are standing on his shoulders. If you reread, I know this is heresy, but I don't enjoy reading Lord of the Rings like I enjoy reading things like Wheel of Time or Sanderson. But what I realize is that they wouldn't exist if Lord of the Rings didn't exist.
Right. Yeah, I haven't done a reread of Lord of the Rings in like 10 years.
And that's, yeah, and like when you reread it and you're like, did he just spend 3 pages on poetry about the Entwives who never turn up and have no bearing on the book? Did he do that? And he totally did that. And he didn't even say sorry. Like these days, no editor would allow The Lord of the Rings to be published. It just wouldn't happen. And you think, oh, yeah, that's worth noticing. Anyway, but thanks for having me on, man.
All right, well, you take it easy. Everybody like and subscribe. I'm not sure what we're doing next here, but we'll start the next Wheel of Time stuff in a month or so.
Cool.
I just need to really put a foot in my butt and get myself reading faster and not getting distracted by other reading. I've been reading a lot of Japanese comic books lately, and they've been like taking up a big chunk of my time. I'm just trying to get through this one series, and when I'm done with it, I'll get back to my normal Wheel of Time reading.
Well, the point is, man, you should enjoy it. That's the key thing. So if you're enjoying it, read your comics. Ciao for now.
All right, you take it easy, everybody. Bye bye.
Okay.